Well, welcome everybody to the University of Iowa. I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Kareem Malik.
Good morning. Thank you, Travis. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the University of Iowa. I just have a few slides to welcome everybody. A huge thank you for joining us, for taking the time. This is a very important topic. As you can tell, there's been about 145 participants today from 6 countries: Canada, Australia, India, the United Kingdom, New Zealand, and the US. We have representatives from elected officials from both parties. We welcome them warmly. You can't go without acknowledging that although a huge pandemic, it's also, we've been hit by, I believe they call it the RECA, and it's lost power for about 300,000 people in Iowa, about 1 million people in the Midwest. So our thoughts and hearts are with those who are without power and without water today. I'd like to say a huge thank you to the organizers, Travis above leading the group, but there's been a lot of work in the background in terms of IT and reaching out to people, organizing the conference. I know it is virtual. There's no meals to serve, there's no breakfast, but it's still a lot of work to be done. And so thank you so much, a huge thank you. Welcome to the University of Iowa. I just want to give you, for those of you who have not visited before, just 2 points, 3 points of fact. We are a Research One campus. We are focused on research among teaching and service and everything else we do. Established in 1847, we're about 33,000 students. We are the Hawkeyes. Although no football season, we are still the Hawkeyes all throughout. I serve, my name is Kareem Malik. I serve as the director of the Iowa Technology Institute. We're about 250 people. We are focused mainly on modeling and simulation, has grown quite a bit over the years. And one of these programs is the Virtual Soldier, the product of which is Santos, and we will present a little bit more about it later on. Today's summit, although it is an annual one and it's all focused on virtual humans, what we call digital twins, today's conference is to improve female body armor, a problem of common concern among many services, including police and others. And so we will focus on that. Finally, I'd love to present our president, President Bruce Harold, who has been leading the university for quite some time very successfully. The only thing I'd like to mention about him is that he's been very connected to the military, consulting at the executive leadership level, and those relations have transferred to us as well. So thank you, President Harold, for being here, for participating. Over to you. Bruce, I think you're muted.
Good morning. Is that better? Senator Ernst, just nod. Can you hear me? Good.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, good to see you. Good to see our Dean. Thank you, Kareem. And thank all of you for joining us. I find something ironic about having our virtual human summit virtually. So this wonderful showcase of our technology in spite of a traumatic, incredible storm we had a few days ago, a windstorm, unbelievable to observe. But I wanted just to spend a few moments not only welcoming you, but giving you some context for the University of Iowa. The University of Iowa, as Kareem said, we have 33,000 students. When you look at our peers in the Big Ten or peers in the AAU, we're relatively small as an R1 institution. But to be honest, we like it that way. The main thing I think about one word a lot, which is excellence. We're not going to do everything. We're highly focused, and what we decide to do, we do extremely well. And we do it for a long, long time and stick with it, because many of these areas are raising important questions, and there obviously aren't simple answers. If there were simple answers, it wouldn't be worth our effort. And you're going to see today one of those in important areas. The other thing I think about a lot is because of perhaps where we are in the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest. I've been all around the world, lived on both coasts. And one of the things I always love when I come back is Midwesterners. There's something about the values. We're quite collaborative. We like teams. We like working in teams. We actually like arguing. We often talk about being Iowa nice, and there's an edge to that, to be honest. But part of that edge is when we come together to have a discussion, we do it, I like to say, we don't stab each other in the back. We bite each other in the nose. And so we actually work really well in a team to get to collaborative solutions. And you're going to see that. We actually, Kareem and his team, we started a long time ago, and up until recently, we always referred to it as CCAD, the Center for Computer Aided Design. And the more and more and more work that group did, which started off with computers, and then it got into physiology, and then we started looking at our sports teams and high performance and trying to model that. And then all of a sudden we're into the statistics, and then we're into biomechanics, and then and the list just goes on and on and on. That's our university. We like hanging out with not just people in our own silo, but we like smashing the silos together. And so, we do that a lot. We do that everywhere. We're fortunate to have one of the top medical centers in the world on our campus. And by the way, while a lot of the research across the country in the United States has been stable or declining, we're zooming ahead. Last year was our biggest research year ever, and a major portion of that was we have several of the world's leading experts on the class of coronavirus that is taking over the world. And so we're doing a lot of CV-19 work and research right now. We're also, just again, it'll come up in another context in a moment, but we're, for years, I don't know that there's actually any not NASA launched American projectile into space that has, I think everyone has had a device on it from the University of Iowa in one way or the other. And we've doubled down over the last few years since I've been here on space physics. James Van Allen was a distinguished member of our faculty way back. And we're actually, right now, we've got 2 devices going into to the edge of the sun and actually trying to monitor what's happening with solar flares and trying to be able to predict that activity, because if we're going to go to Mars, and we are, we're going to need to understand when to shield and protect the humans that are in the craft going to Mars because of those. So anyway, I digress, but there's a long history here of interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary, integrated research and collaboration. That's what we do. The bigger the problem, the more the collaboration, the better off we are. That kind of brings us now into many, and Kareem always cringes when I get into his area and try to describe it, because he knows it much better than I. But we started a long time ago trying to understand how we model human behavior. Rather than just the stick shell that you find in video games, what is the real physiology going on? What are the real biomechanics? More importantly, perhaps even than the biomechanics, in my opinion, having worked with some of our military folks, are the issues of when their peak performance starts to dissipate. When do they need to rehydrate? When do they need to, this whole issue of recovery time on various missions is a really big issue. Many of our missions today expand over multiple days. When do they sleep? How do they sleep? When do they need to rehydrate? When do they need to eat? How long do they need before they can go again at a close to max capacity? Those are the types of issues that we started to deal with the virtual soldier, the first iteration of that, physics-based, biomechanically modeled soldier with Santos. You'll hear about Santos. You'll probably see Santos a little bit here later. But then very importantly, and something I think I know several of my colleagues, including Senator Ernst, are very focused on, is we've been looking at males for a long time. And yet we have 200 and some odd thousand women now in the armed services. We have a number of women in all sorts of in harm's way. How do we actually model their performance? How do we actually protect them? How do we actually simulate what tasks and capabilities in some special situations women might be better performers than men? And how do we actually predict and anticipate that? And so we added Sophia, and you'll see her, I'm sure, as well. And that kind of gets into the specific topics of today's agenda around the protection of women and body armor and how we design that. And I think it's a very, very important topic. I'm reminded because of our NASA experience, and the director of NASA was on campus a couple of months ago, and we're kind of talking about, here we go. We send some astronauts, women astronauts into space. We don't have a suits that'll fit them because they've been designed for the less fairer sex. That's a problem, and we need to open our eyes and understand that, and put as much energy as possible behind that and do the right thing. And so that kind of gets us a little bit into what we're doing here. Those are the types of problems and issues that we really, really excel at, and we really enjoy those types of challenges. And so I wish you all the best of luck today. I think you're going to see a lot of interesting areas that we're exploring. We would like to do all we can to help a number of you on that journey. And I think you'll bring a practicality of some of the questions and focus us more on that. But please understand, we're here to serve. That's what we do. That's our core mission, trying to discover and explore the fringe areas of how things work, how humans work, how the world works, and to make the world a better place. That's what we're all about at the University of Iowa. And I think you'll find we have some pretty good people in terms of talent, but most importantly, I love their collaboration. I love their style. I love their spunk. And if I may, Senator, you're a great example. Here you are, you so many firsts. You're sort of like a triple threat in the sense that you've served in so many ways the state of Iowa, but also you served for many a year, many a decade in the military. You've been to some of the more important theaters in the last couple of decades in Kuwait and Iraq, reached the rank of lieutenant colonel, commanded people in harm's way. But then at the end of the day, you came back and now are serving, I think, as the first woman to represent Iowa in a federal office. And I know you're tired, exhausted. I'm not sure where you are. I suspect you may be in Red Oak, or at least in the state. But if not, but you're in the middle of a campaign. It is that season. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for all that you've done. I was talking to a Major General friend of mine the other night who you saw at Thanksgiving a year ago in Afghanistan.
Exactly.
And he just to say hello to you. And he also
Thank you.
also said to say, go Cyclones. And I said, well, Joni is a graduate of our nearest rival and lovely friends in Iowa State. And we're all Iowans at the end of the day. We're all Americans. We're trying to do the right things. Fortunately, or unfortunately, we won't play each other on this year in sports, but we'll get through that and get back to rabid competition. It's so great to see you. Thank you so much for all that you are doing for us. And I'll pass the baton to you.
Oh, thank you, President Harold. And it is such an honor to serve all of the great folks in Iowa. I am in Des Moines right now. Shortly, I've got a couple of events today, but I'll be out doing a survey of some of the storm damage as well. So God bless all those that have been affected by this storm. I am a Cyclone, but you know what? I am so proud of all of our great colleges and universities across the state. And this is one of those great examples on how we can come together in collaboration, and something that is very, very important to me, not only as a soldier and a combat veteran, but also as the mother of a female that is attending West Point. She is a third-year student at Cal at West Point and will be joining the ranks of the Army here in the next year and a half. So just truly thankful that we have great researchers that are involved in virtual soldier, and that they are taking the look at something I've been working for in Congress for a while now, and that is personal protective equipment that's specifically body armor that is fitting for women. And I know during my own deployment, wearing the vests and the SAPI plates, they didn't fit properly, you know, and I know I'm a much smaller build than some of my truck drivers and mechanics. Some of them are pretty big, burly guys. And for those of us that were smaller women, they just didn't fit properly. And we have seen a number of injuries associated with ill-fitting, ironically, protective gear. So ensuring that our soldiers, male or female, are protected is key. And then other issues that come along with ill-fitting body armor, I think about my truck drivers, my female truck drivers. If they are out on a mission and their body armor is ill-fitting, it is uncomfortable, it doesn't sit right with their body configuration, what's going to happen? More than likely, they're going to open up their vest, they're going to open up those plates, may not wear it properly in order to relieve any discomfort that they may have. And we know that that puts them in danger, and we can't allow that. You know, I come from back in the day before we had up-armored Humvees. We were rolling through Iraq in canvas-topped, canvas-doored Humvees. And then as IEDs became a thing, then we started lining our Humvees and our trucks, the floorboards, with sandbags. You know, we've come a long way since then, and I'm very thankful for that. And I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to serve where I am and be able to focus on issues like this, and through Congress, make those changes through the National Defense Authorization Act and ensure that we're providing the best possible protective gear for our men and women. So I'm just so thankful. Dr. Malik, thank you so much for your efforts, and of course the first ever conference that you have today. I am so glad to be with you, but I'll stop there in case we do have some questions. And Dr. Malik, I'm not sure if you'll be fielding questions, or if Dr. Harold, if you'll invite folks to join in, but I'm happy to answer anything this morning. I think I do have a few minutes with you, so whatever might work.
Thank you, Senator. Yeah, we do have a way for folks to submit questions. Travis is managing that.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thanks, Travis.
One question that's come through from those that are viewing, if you could share some of the personal stories or experiences of the soldiers that you interacted with during your time or during your listening tour, and what they had to share.
Yeah, and Travis, is that specific to the body armor issue, or is that just some of the other?
It was correct. It was specific to the body armor issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And my own personal story, and I just shared a little bit about that as well, but having the plates that didn't fit properly, very uncomfortable to wear. Not that, you know, we expected it to be like slipping on a polo shirt or something, but of course, when it's not fitting properly, the experiences I had, especially with my female drivers, and females come in all different configurations. And so when you do have females that are a little larger on the top, those plates, just those flat plates, can be really, really uncomfortable. So what did I experience? Folks are, we had the side open vest. So it was just like wearing a regular vest. And so what they would end up doing, those women, because it was so uncomfortable, they would just open up vests and not wear them properly as they're rolling down the road. And that's something we were always concerned about, always correcting. But with the threat that's out there, whether it is sniper, ambush, or even the threat of blast from IED, you know, you cannot have anyone not properly protected. So, you know, whether they're taking them off or just simply opening them up, we can't have that. So that was my own personal experience and the women drivers that I had. They've got to remain protected at all times when we're on the road. And that wasn't happening. And so I witnessed it. I know others witnessed it. I have heard stories, though, women, if they have to evac or get out of their vehicle quickly, the body armor, if it's not fitting properly, not moving with them, it becomes an inhibitor rather than a piece of protective gear. And it can slow them down or cause injury if they're hitting the ground. So women are sharing those stories, and because they're sharing those stories, we know that there is an issue, and we know that we have to take corrective action. I'm just so surprised that it hasn't happened sooner than this. We've had women in combat arms now for 5 years or greater, and we still haven't made that change, that advancement. So we need to get on this. We need to make sure that we're finding a path forward. And that's exactly what at least our Senate passed version of the NDAA does, is allow us to work on body armor specifically for females.
Thank you. Yes, we've seen the research that the female warriors and their male warriors, they are more willing to sacrifice their own health and body to ensure that the mission carries on. So we continue to see the musculoskeletal injuries, the back injuries, because they're going to accomplish the mission. They're going to serve even at the sacrifice of their own body. And that's why we're all here today. So really appreciate that answer. Another question posed: throughout your experience in the military and the Senate, have you seen other areas of need where modeling and simulation can be of assistance, or where it could be used more perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. And it can be in vehicle design, the interior of vehicles. Again, I spent a lot of time in a truck, and just making sure that not only you are protected, but that there is a certain comfort level for those drivers, those mechanics. Very important. You think about our warriors, our infantry soldiers, and as they're moving forward on patrol, making sure that any equipment they are wearing is not inhibiting movement. I have spent some time just recently with other researchers and developers that are working on the seat of a vehicle that's not only configured for a soldier, regardless of size, but then one that you can easily extricate someone from in case of some sort of injury. So there are so many applications that you can use your modeling for that just goes light years beyond where we have been before. The trucks that I commanded in theater were the 1088s, which is a cab over design where our soldiers are literally sitting on top of their engine, and the heat that's coming up from those and the discomfort and sweat and they, again, doing modeling and behavioral analysis, taking the heat coming from an engine below you, 142 degree Fahrenheit heat outside the vehicle, no air conditioning, using those situations and modeling human behavior is really important. So I'm thankful that you do have the researchers that are involved in this. We know that our soldiers have literally a much better fighting chance because of what you are doing. So we're just very thankful.
Travis, can you hear me, Travis?
Yes, sir.
Travis? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I think there's another area, and I'm veering away from body armor here, but 4 or 5 years ago when I first saw Santos, I remember saying to Kareem, there are a group of military that work largely off of intelligence, and then trying to prepare for a mission with a small group of people going into harm's way. They need to practice over and over and over every possible scenario that might happen in a mission. And all of a sudden, when I saw Santos and what we were modeling, I said to Kareem, there's a whole nother application here, which is running some of those simulations, trying to anticipate all the bad things and good things that could go on, and try to anticipate who goes left, who goes right. Because I think if you've ever seen one of those operations in the preparation for it, it's a lot like a ballet, and it never goes right. And so everybody has to be on cue. What if somebody goes slightly the other direction? You've got to know that is a very, very, very important application, I believe, long term. It's pretty complex, but it's very important. So sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Dr. Harold, or President Harold, that is absolutely correct as well. In my role as the committee chairwoman or subcommittee chairwoman for emerging threats and technologies and capabilities, we do oversee SOCOM. So our Special Operations Command, and the various types of missions that they will be engaged in, whether you are a ranger fast roping out of a helicopter, whether you are a Navy SEAL doing some sort of amphibious, patrol, your equipment is going to be different and it needs to be modified for your mission. It needs to be lightweight. The less weight they have to carry, the better off they will be able to, perform their duties. So there's just so many different applications that I see here that just they blow my mind. When I think about when I first entered the military in 92, we just didn't have that opportunity. And so now as we see very specialized forces like, the men and women of SOCOM, or whether it's someone like me that's just out there supporting the warrior and running up and down those roads, very different missions, but we all need to be protected. So, this is the way we do it. And I'm just thankful that we can find solutions without actually, going through years and years of guinea pigs on the battlefront, so we can do that in the lab setting and make those determinations before we ever outfit our men and women in uniform. So yeah, I love it. Thank you.
You bring up another very, very good point, which is where historically we've treated all of us the same. Hence, none of us get exactly what we really need. And that's also true for training, which is, the basic training we all go through the same way. Yet all of us in this conference, I suspect, are different levels of conditioning. And maybe we need to start where I am, which is less than you are, I'm sure, Senator, but actually tailor the training as well as the equipment, as well as the missions. And so there's a whole nother level of sophistication, and we're starting to get there. Thank God.
Yes. And a comment to this as well, using the lab setting and the modeling. One thing that's important to Congress is making sure we have the best possible equipment fielded for our men and women. We can do that through the laboratory, but by doing that through the laboratory, then we also see cost savings in that we're outfitting them with the best possible equipment without going through various trials and outfitting our entire force with equipment that may not work properly or may not fit properly. So, we try to be the government watchdog in Congress as well. But this way we know that we are fielding the best and doing that at a rate that will save our forces dollars that can be used in other areas. So number one is getting the best equipment, but the savings we see by not going through so many ill-fitting, improper, body armor or whatever type of equipment is very important.
Exactly. It reminds us, we see this as a revolution in capability for training. We see how simulators benefited aircraft manufacturers and vehicle training. And we say that the soldier comes first. They've kind of been in the back of the line when it comes to using modeling and simulation to improve their training. So we really see this as a revolution that's occurring to prevent injuries, extend life, health and fitness. And it's a vision of the Army really being the place to go to become fit, to learn skills, to really serve and protect. So we appreciate that. We have one final question, if you still have time.
I do.
And it was simply a question about, can you provide more information on the actual bill and what the legislation will likely do?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have kind of an overview as well on my website if you go to ernst.senate.gov. But what we do in the bill is provide reporting requirements as well, because that is very important to make sure that we are capturing that data and keeping that handy. But let me see if I can get that. I don't have a very in-depth, copy in front of me. But what we what we do. It is introducing the female personal protective equipment like body armor. We require the reporting, and it aims to ensure that we do have that adequate fit for women and make sure that it's readily available. So what it will do is expedite the contracting. We want to field the equipment as quickly as possible. That's why we're glad that you all are engaged. And it requires, here's the tracking system. It requires the Defense Health Agency to create a trackable system for injury-related data to accompany the issuance of the new protective equipment. And this is where you come in as well. It encourages the collaboration between academia and industry so that we can leverage the emerging technology. So we are excited about it. It dives into the predictive human modeling. We have human factor simulations and modeling, and that will help us as we are developing that next generation body armor. So collaboration, the tracking with the Defense Health Agency, and then expedited fielding of the developed product. So the quicker we can get it out there, the better off our women will be in the field. So we really appreciate everybody stepping forward and literally wrapping your arms around this and making sure that we are doing the right thing by our female warriors.
This is Major General Stu Wallace. Thank you, Senator Ernst, for your time this morning and for your service. As a fellow soldier, we appreciate all that you're doing for us out there.
God bless you, General. Thanks so much. And with that, I do need to step away. I'll be out across the state of Iowa. President Harold, thank you. Dr. Malik, thank you and your team. I'm just so appreciative. I am proud. I am just so proud of all of the work that you are doing to help. So thank you. And everybody stay safe, okay?
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Senator.
you. God bless you.
Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
I also want to welcome everybody. You're probably wondering why Stu Wallace, a retired Major General, is sitting here at the university, but I went to this great institution some 50 years ago, and I'm very proud to be able to be back and sort of help. When I was here speaking in the military ball 3.5 years ago, Dr. Malik and President Harold grabbed me and asked if I would be willing to help them. And after careful consideration, I thought it would be a great opportunity for me to give back to the university and keep my finger in the great Army efforts that are going on today and stay current. So I agreed to volunteer my time, and I sort of act as an integrator for the programs here at the university and in the United States Army. So that's why you see me here. I'm not a scientist. I'm not an engineer. I'm just a good old Hawkeye. So I'm proud to be able to help out. This morning, I have the great pleasure of introducing Dr. Doug Tamilio, who is the Director of Natick Soldier Research Development Engineering Center, commonly known as the Soldier Center. Doug is a distinguished military veteran, served our Army on active duty. As a colonel, he was a PM for soldier weapons. And then when he retired, he joined the civil service and is now the director of NSRDC. Back in August or in July, I believe, of 2016, he was inducted into the senior executive service. And so he is one of the top civilian managers and leaders in our great Army. And so, Doug, I'll turn it over to you, and thanks for your participation.
Sir, thank you very much for those kind words. And I'd like to thank, obviously, Senator Ernst, who's no longer with us here. She left, but President Harold and Dr. Malik and the entire leadership staff of Iowa. Really appreciate you hosting this conference and giving us an opportunity to talk a little bit about what we do here at Natick. And so I'll get into that. So I've got a few slides that we're going to show. I want to go fairly brief through these because I've got some experts that are going to follow behind me, both from the PEO soldier side and then from my side. But I want to make a comment up front that I think President Harold, you mentioned, and I think it's incredibly important, and there was a small discussion on it. But it's really about, to me, there are two things that are inherently always going to happen in the line of business that we're in, right? And it's that there are constant changes in the threat and constant changes in technology. And those two changes, I think, fundamentally drive us to look at iterative approaches and new technologies that we can insert to existing material solutions, right, to protect our soldiers. So I'll give you a quick synopsis. I know, so General Wallace, you got me by a few years, but I'm not going to give my age up, but I did come in the Army in 1981, and I was issued a steel pot. And, that was a relic from basically World War II. Today, we have the most advanced combat helmet, and we're designing a new combat helmet that's going to provide significant increases in protection against emerging threats, but at reduced weight. And that's important, right? Because we know that we get a lot of neck and injuries, cervical injuries in the spine from too much weight bearing over the years. But that happened a very iterative process. So it's not like we can go out and stamp something tomorrow and have a new product. We've had about 8 to 9 helmets since 1981, different versions. And that's because the threat continues to evolve. We try to match that threat, and it's a balance between weight and protection levels. But as new materials are introduced, either through our academic or industrial partners or through our own government labs, we're able to bring the weight down and increase the protection level. And so we see that across all of the commodities that we deal with, particularly in body armor too. And I just want to note that body armor, the weight of body armor is in our Army is really derived by 2 premises. It's the threat, but it's also the shots that we are allowed to take within that body armor. So it's a requirements-driven, really drives the weight. So with that, if we go to the next slide. So for those who don't know, the Soldier Center is headquartered at Natick, Massachusetts. We have a little under 1,000 people at any given time working for me. We also have an organization out in Orlando in Central Florida in the Research Park, STTC, the Simulation and Training Technology Group out there. That was kind of a new attachment to me about 1.5 years ago. And we're very happy to have them because there's a lot of synergy between what they do in simulation and modeling and what we do up here in our human performance optimization area. Let's go to the next slide. So I just want to ground everybody about who we are and how we fit in this Army structure, right? And so we work directly for the CG of Combat Capabilities Development Command, who reports up to General Murray, the AFC commander. And everybody who understands AFC is really newly created, about 2 years old now. But I believe they're making a significant impact on the synchronization of activities to get at the Army modernization priorities. You go to the next slide. So this is what CCDC looks like. General George has been in the job for about 6 months. And on the bottom, I'd like to point out there's the Army Research Lab, and then there are 6 centers. Each center is commodity focused, as you can see. And the Soldier Center is really one of the smallest, but I always say the most important because we're soldier centric. And every other center has soldiers as part of its repertoire. And of course, we have the Data Analysis Center with Jim Amato that helps us do a lot of analysis in modeling a simulation. Go to the next slide. So this is the Soldier Center mission areas. And then on the left-hand side, you can see our core competencies. So we are a very diverse group of scientists and engineers focused on many different areas to support our Army. So anything from MREs to first strike rations, the food our soldiers eat, to the equipment that they use to do that, to all of the aerial delivery equipment, both parachutes for personal and cargo to support the DoD entirety, to include Special Forces. We do all the individual and collective protection for our soldiers here. Soldier performance integration, we'll talk a little bit about that later. Material science, fiber textile, and of course, Army training technologies with the inclusion of the Simulation and Training Technology Group down in Orlando. And President Harold, I want to hit, if you, for one item that if you look at the 4th over on the soldier performance optimization, and on the bottom, it's called Mastery, short for Measuring and Advancing Soldier Tactical Readiness. And it gets at what you were talking about earlier. This is about censoring our soldiers so we can, in real time, collect data that will improve and optimize their performance at both tactical and training. So we can start getting that individual, information through to enable more efficient training and in combat operations. And I'll give you an example, and I use this all the time. If a squad is out on a patrol and a soldier dehydrates, that you lose almost a third of your combat power, because now you have two other soldiers that have to carry that soldier and his or her equipment, right? And that's not satisfactory. That's an easy solution that we can fix working with our medical partners here. If we can detect before a soldier is going to dehydrate, and then we can stop and fix that situation. That's an easy one. There's other ones that are harder ones, problems to solve. Cognitive abilities, making sure soldiers are alert, where they're focused, how they're focused. Resiliency, you mentioned, when they get to an area after a mission, how do we get them back up to peak performance? And all of that we believe we can do through sensors. Another interesting fact, real quick, is that we just got some funding from the Department of Defense to work with our medical partners to outfit a group of soldiers. I'm not going to, on this forum, tell you who they are, but to really get at, can we use certain type of sensors to predict COVID-19 type of symptoms? We think we can do that. The company that we're working with believes they can change the algorithms in the device to get at that. So that's a 1,000-person study. So the end number is very large there, and we're very happy with that. But what that's going to enable us is to put sensors on those soldiers that are going to allow us to actually collect a lot more data to get at this measuring and advancing the optimizing their performance. So we're pretty happy. But if you look at the three columns on your right, soldier performance, soldier protection, simulation and training, today's discussion and conference really focuses on those three areas and components of them. And I'll get to them a little later here. You go to the next slide. So I'm only going to briefly talk about three areas that I just mentioned out of those three directorates that I think are really pertinent to today's discussion. We have an anthropology team here, and so we go out on a regular basis and we sample the Army. So we survey the Army. The end number varies. The last one we did had about 50, was actually probably about 5,000 end number, but we got about 50% of that females. And that's the first time we had that large population of female participants. And so we do a complete 3D body scan. That information goes into a database and allows us to use modeling and simulation to look at different types of equipment, how it fits on a soldier or the typical soldier within our Army, and then how that works within vehicles. But Karen Gogorzik is going to talk more in detail about that later. But that's a very important team for our Army and actually for the Department of Defense, because we do a lot of the joint services use this database to help them in sizing and things like that. Next slide. And so we have a human factors team. This team is obviously very important for us to do human system integration. How does the man work with the equipment, or the female work with the equipment? How do those two interactions work across a variety of things? You change one variable, you want to hold that constant as you look across many other variables, but it's a challenging area. We do a lot of product testing for our PEO and to support the PEO. And of course, we have a lot of research efforts designed at getting better fidelity into some of the research topics that we're doing. Next slide. And the last area is our biomechanics and engineering team. And you can see, I mean, through this, we're using modeling, simulation, engineering analysis. We do a lot of test and evaluation, fitness and strength assessments. We're pretty lucky here too at NATIC that we're tied into the medical command has a group here that does high altitude and physiological work on soldiers and research. So that's a good teaming arrangement for us. Karen Gogorska is going to talk much more detail. She heads our biomechanics and engineering team. And go to the next slide. So the Simulation and Training Technology Center is new to me, but they're down in Orlando. We've had them for about a little over a year. But I really think this is one area that if we talk about Santos, we talk about that type of modeling where it can help us here, right? So I think it's getting at the fidelity of the avatars that can apply to the research to develop the R&D that we're doing here in NATIC, as well as the R&D that the director down there, Matt Clark's doing, particularly in the medical research area. I think that'll be very important as we go forward. Next slide. And so this is kind of just a snapshot of what we've done for female. I want to focus a little bit now on just female body armor specifics. So back in 2009, there was an RFI that identified the need for female sizes, right? Basically getting at what Senator Ernst was talking about, right? One size does not fit all. We could do better for females, particularly when you're thinking about It's not necessarily the shot on the body armor, right? It's the after effects of that shot, right? That blast mitigation, what happens afterwards. And so if the armor is not conformed to the body properly and there's spaces within there, that could cause problems, obviously. And so we did an effort back in 2010 to look at and develop female-specific IOTVs, came up with 8 new sizes and design features. That was transitioned over to PEO Soldier, and they have fielded back in, I think, 2013, the first kit for female body armors. However, we know we can do better than that. I don't think that is truly where we need to be today. So go to the next slide. This slide just kind of shows you across the board, when you look at body armor, that those 3 areas I talked about, anthropometric design, human factors, and biomechanics, how it supports body armor design across the torso, head, systems, or extremity. And those what's in white in those blocks are actually support that we've given to our joint partners over the years. So we've done a lot of work in this area. We got a lot of expertise here and with the ARL, Army Research Lab. But again, we don't do this in a vacuum, right? We rely heavily on our academic and industry partners to conduct the proper research and development to get us to that next level. Next slide. Karen will talk more in detail about this, but this is kind of a proposal from us where we think we need to go to get at higher fidelity, better optimized performance of body armor for females. But it really is to look at the data that we have collected today and then do more research into soldier touch points, collect more data to get at what would be the proper size, relate that to blast injury, and then develop the next set of sizes and body armor specific to females. Next slide. So this is a plug for me, and it really was a plug for Senator Ernst, although she's not here. So I wanted to thank her for helping us select this. So this is a new facility that we're going to have a groundbreaking. Well, we were going to have a groundbreaking shortly, but COVID-19 has prevented us from doing that. But this is a $50 million, 80,000 square foot research facility. And it's going to bring together researchers from the medical community, researchers here at Natick proper, into one facility that will allow us to baseline both soldier and squad performance. It's a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind facility, doesn't exist today. We believe that we will be able to use a controlled environment to assess the needs and the capability gaps that are out there today in our Army and make significant improvements to our soldier protective gear. And so we would invite you all, when this gets built, to come out and partner with us in this facility. Absolutely, we want to open this up. It was originally designed for government use, but I'm going to open this up to both academic and industry. And we can provide you more detailed on the specifics of this later. But I just wanted to really thank Senator Ernst here, helping us secure that $50 million to get this project off the ground. So given that, I'm going to turn it over now. I think it's going to go over to the PEO, to Colonel Miller, and then over to Karen Kokorska, which really will talk specifics. And if you have any questions for me, I think you get them to Krim, and we'll be able to answer them later as it goes on.
Thanks, Doug, for the overview. That's very helpful.
And now we'll turn it over to Lieutenant Colonel Miller. Sir, you are up. I think we have your slides ready.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Steve Miller. I'm the product manager for Soldier Protective Equipment. My remit as the product manager is really to ensure that all of our soldiers have the right levels of protection, not only to ensure their survivability, but in a form factor that improves their mobility, which additionally improves their survivability, but also enhances their lethality on the battlefield. That's really what we do here at Product Manager Soldier Protective Equipment. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak in this venue. As you know, we rely heavily on industry, academia, and our government labs to improve technologies that help us do our job. And I'll give it just a second to see if the charts pop up, or if you need me to share from mine, let me know. Would you like me to push charts from my side?
Yes, please feel free to push the charts from your side.
All right, let me know if you can see those.
We can, thank you.
So what you're looking at here is the soldier protection system. This is our current and future set scheduled for fielding in FY22. It's comprised of three major subsets. That's the torso and extremity protection, which provides all of the soft armor components of the system. The integrated head protection system, which is our updated head protection, and the vital torso protection, which is our hard armor plates. And I'll go through these in just a little more detail on subsequent slides. But this gives you the integrated picture. And what's the key takeaway here is we are looking at all of these as a single system, as opposed to legacy systems where we added and took away over time and created some of those interactions that were less than favorable. So what you see here is the soldier protection systems, the torso extremity protection. So this consists of three components: the modular scalable vest. This replaces the legacy IOTV vests. The ballistic combat shirt, which provides the soldiers with both flame resistance protection, but also soft armor protection to the shoulders and upper arms. And the blast pelvic protection, which provides soldiers with that vital artery protection in the lower extremities. So what we've done with this is change the shape, change the cut to give soldiers more maneuverability, but more importantly for our female soldiers and for our small stature soldiers who have the similar problems, we've increased the sizing on this equipment based on significant feedback from females and from soldiers during human factor evaluations. We've added three sizes: a small long, a small short, and an extra small short, to get after those smaller statures and female sizes. Likewise, we went from a unisex ballistic combat shirt to now we have specifically female ballistic combat shirts that are both cut to the female form factor, cut to accommodate female hairstyles, hip shapes, etc., to make these more comfortable and more functional for our female soldiers. For our soldier protection system, integrated head protection system, what we've done here is significantly increase the level of protection provided by the helmet while reducing the weight of the helmet as a whole to be in line with legacy systems. We have the next generation, which will further increase protection without increasing weight. What you see in the middle here is a mounted configuration. This protects soldiers and vehicles behind crew-served weapons in the event of hard stops or maneuvers that may have caused injury in the past. What you see at the bottom of the chart are some of the female-specific changes we've made during our human factors evaluations with female soldiers and feedback. Common concerns were the fit of the chin straps, hindrance of their peripheral vision by the way the straps are formed, as well as the inability to fit the helmet comfortably and in its proper position with common female hairstyles. So we've made changes to those retention and suspension systems to better fit our female soldiers, both from a size and a form factor perspective. And here you see our hard armor plates, our vital torso protection. So we've made two major changes here. One, for all soldiers, we've changed the cut of the plates, looking at data we have saying that those were acceptable changes, which allow soldiers a greater ability to shoulder a weapon, to conduct other maneuvers that require a better range of motion, and to generally have a more comfortable fit of their armor and to further reduce weight. To accommodate our female and small stature soldiers, similar to the vests, we've increased the number and size of these plates, both the torso plates and the side plates, to accommodate those smaller frames. So as Senator Ernst highlighted, this helps keep the vest from pinching in places it shouldn't, from having those pockets of air inside the vest because plates are pushing the soft armor out of place, and really provides an advantage to the soldier. And what I want to highlight here on this last chart, and then I'm going to hand this over to one of my assistant product managers. Last fall, we did a specific all-female human factors evaluation using this current generation of kit and received generally positive feedback. We received some constructive feedback also for further changes to make, and we're in the process of making those. But generally, for females who had experience with legacy systems and our new soldier protection system, this was looked at very favorably. And so I'm going to take a few minutes here before we get off the stage and hand it back over to toss this over to Major Melissa Elledge. She's a brand new assistant product manager, new to the acquisition corps, who in addition to being the lead for these efforts now is also coincidentally the target audience. So I'm going to ask her to speak for just a minute and give you feedback. Melissa is currently at Joint Base Lewis McChord at a human factors evaluation, looking at this equipment running its paces on soldiers real time. So Melissa, if you'd like to take a few moments.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. Like Colonel Miller said, number one, I'm a female. Number two, I'm a 5'3" female, 120 pounds. So yes, I am the target data point for this equipment, especially having combat experience on multiple occasions and having to wear the legacy equipment. But what we're doing out at JBLM in Washington State right now, the human factors evaluation, I have a total of 38 participants, and 17 of those participants are female. 2 of those female participants are infantry soldiers, very recently graduated from one unit, one training from Fort Benning, Georgia. So these young ladies have spent 22 weeks at Fort Benning wearing legacy, ill-fitting, sometimes not fitting equipment. And as I've been able to participate this week in this evaluation, I've gotten to talk one-on-one with these soldiers, and I want to tell you the awe that they are expressing and their maneuverability is unreal. And if I refer back again to the fact that I am a 5'3", 120-pound female, the kit that I am wearing for the very first time in my 13 years of service, I am wearing an extra small, short vest. I can sit down for an hour and stand back up and feel my legs because I don't have plates sitting on my legs. So the fact that this equipment is available to me, I mean, just from a personal perspective, I'm in awe as much as these soldiers are. The training scenarios that we're putting these soldiers through, they're constantly up and down off the ground, quick laying down, reaction to fire, shooting their weapons. The ability for them to literally jump up without feeling like a little turtle on your back because you have so much cumbersome equipment that is not fit for maneuvering is just unreal. And I want to express too, while we are focusing on the female form, we have to remember that we have small stature soldiers. So what we are doing specifically for females is also helping our small stature men. And I've talked to the men as well that are participating in this. And one of them happens to be a striker driver. And he said, "Ma'am, I can't believe that I can actually turn around and see behind me. That is not possible in the legacy equipment." So what we're doing here is really a benefit to 100% of our soldiers. And of course, being a female, I'm super excited about the fact that it's also a benefit to me. The maneuverability, again, I can't even express to you, and I really hope that we get a chance to get Senator Ernst kitted up. It's a quick opportunity to show her because she has worn it. She has experienced what it's like to wear this equipment. And I hope you can tell how excited I am. I know you can't see me, but this is just an incredible opportunity that we have been able to do. And I want you to know also that as a woman, being able to contribute to this shift in providing fit, form, and functioning equipment to females and to all of our service members is super exciting, and I'm really looking forward to continuing to work on this program. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate getting to talk about this and let you know that, you know, we are testing and we're getting the feedback from the females, we're getting the feedback from the small stature men, and it really is making a difference. Thank you.
So thank you, Melissa. And I just want to close real quick again by thanking you all for the opportunity to participate. While we think we're moving in the right direction and we're definitely making improvements, we rely heavily on the type of efforts you're going to talk about today to continue that progression, to continue getting better, to continue getting after ensuring that all of our soldiers have the right protection in the right place at the right time to execute their missions in a survivable and lethal fashion. So thank you again, and that's all we have from our side. We'll pass it back to CCDC.
I want to get it set up so I can like.
Hello, I'm Karen Gregorczyk, and I am the branch chief of the Physical Performance Branch here at Soldier Center. So as Mr. Tamilio mentioned, I am the branch chief of overlooking the anthropology team, the biomechanics team, and the human factors team. And really what this branch brings is a holistic approach to understanding the effects of equipment, the effects of anthropology on design guidance, and the effects of that CIE on soldier task performance. So thanks for the opportunity to be here today. And I'm just going to touch on what we feel that the Army is postured to expand on our previous efforts, our previous research and product development efforts to help better optimize body armor for the female soldier. Senator Ernst and the previous woman just spoke who brought up some great points. And I think, this effort really looks to achieve the goals and better understand the critical issues that females are having with these types of systems. So our approach is a two-phased approach. The first phase is a front-end analysis, really trying to identify the critical issues that females are having with equipment fit, range of motion, and areas of coverage that we've heard about previously. Also, we're going to utilize our Answer To database to help understand the theoretical fit of body armor systems. Additionally, we're going to identify and expand female body armor measurements. So we're going to look at additional torso measures so that we can better understand female shape and size and provide that guidance for clothing and individual equipment development. We're going to review existing SIF clothing issuing facility size fit process for issuing body armor for females and identify where there might be issues with that process. And importantly, we're also going to share these results across the services so that we enhance commonality across the services. The second phased approach is really taking the information that we plan to gather and the knowledge gained from the front end analysis to then explore novel material changes, to propose design concepts while maintaining performance specifications, to begin to look at prototype development and limited quantities, and to expand system level assessments of these, doing test and evaluation to validate ballistic potential and other requirements. And then to conduct additional human factors engineering assessments to look at these prototype design concepts and really understand where things still need to be modified as needed to fit the individuals. We believe through this approach that this data-driven approach will better inform body armor system designs, leading to improved form, fit, and function to get at all the issues that Senator Ernst had discussed. Over.
Thank you very much. We appreciate those remarks, Karen and Lieutenant Colonel Miller, Major Elledge, and Mr. Tamilio. We have two questions, so we still have some time for two questions that were directed. I will go the first one from our partners in Canada. The Department of National Defense up there is asking a question about the when we did the full body scanning and then the fitting of the modeling. There were two questions related to that. What scanner was used to scan the subjects? And then could you talk a little bit more about that scanning and the fitting of that modeling?
Hi, so this is Karen Gregorczyk. I cannot actually speak to the fitting of the modeling. However, we do have the 3D, a 3D scanner. I'm not sure of the exact make and model of that scanner, but I can provide that information. And we can also provide the...
Karen, this is Todd here from CCDC. So we've got the WB4 scanner from Cyberware, as well as the Cyberware head scanner as well. So the Answer To data was collected with the Cyberware whole body WB4 or the WBX. So there's two of those. Over.
Great, thank you. And another question from Dennis McGurk, RTI International. How does the Soldier Center, how do you divide up human performance efforts between CCDC Soldier Center and MRDC? So how do you divide those efforts, and how do you pick up, or how do you pick what you need to reach out for external partners? It's kind of a question of, for industry, where to go on human performance between CCDC Soldier Center and MRDC. Over.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and really what we used to use the phrase, I don't really love it as much because there's crossover, skin in, skin out, right? So MRDC is really looking at that medical aspect, right? And when I talked about mastery earlier, right, we're both looking at sensors on soldiers, but for different output, right? And so they're looking at more from a medical perspective, right? How can they shorten that timeline between, you know, to get to that golden hour? How can they even shorten that, get more medical data to a doctor before they actually see the physician, right? We're more concerned with the performance of that soldier, right? So we talked about dehydration earlier, right? They're concerned about the medical implications of a dehydrated soldier. We're concerned about getting that soldier back in so he doesn't get dehydrated and back into peak performance as quick as we can. It's a little different, right? And so if you think about what we do on our side, it's mostly skin out. So everything that touches a soldier, the equipment, they're more concerned with the medical aspects. Does that make sense? What was the other part of that question? I think there was a two-part question there.
So for industry to engage, where would be the best in routes for industry? So in order to understand needs and gaps for the external partners, academia and industry, what's the best way for becoming aware of those research priorities or the prototyping priorities, and how to meet those needs?
Yeah, it's just, you know, there's multiple ways to do that, right? We do RFIs occasionally. We do requests for proposals. We have a BA out there. So I would say if anybody has anything, first of all, the slide that I had earlier that was, for distribution, that listed all the commodity areas that we deal with here at the Soldier Center. If there is an industry out there, an academic partner that wants to collaborate on something in there, I would say contact my PAO. We can give you that information, and we can put you into the right directorate to do that. As for the medical side, we can provide you their contact information after. I don't have it handy now.
Perfect.
They just had a change of command, but Colonel Morton is the new commander over Usarium. But if there's specific questions, we can probably steer you to the right person. And Debbie Dawson is my PAO, and we'll get you her contact information. If anybody has any questions, you can put that out, and we'll be happy to make the linkages, right?
Roger that.
Okay.
Appreciate it. So yeah, Mr. Tamilio, thank you for you and your team coming on. Special thanks for carving out time and supporting this presentation. And it had a lot of work from STTC all the way up, and we really appreciated everybody spending time. Lieutenant Colonel Miller, shout out to you, Major Elledge. We're also passionate here. It's a research university. We actually have a lot of people that have deployed. We have combat deployments to Ramadi and to Northeast Afghanistan. So there's a lot of real operational use here at the Iowa Technology Institute. So we share your passion. And then, and Karen, really appreciate those comments at all. So thank you again. And now I have the privilege of introducing Dean Harriet Nemhard, and I want to welcome her to this as the Dean of the College of Engineering. And we'll turn it over to you now, Dean Harriet.
Good morning, Travis. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, very good.
Perfect. Good morning to you all. Good morning, everyone. It has been really insightful to hear the problem set up today on female body armor. I am delighted to welcome you virtually to the College of Engineering at the University of Iowa and to share some aspects of my vision for the College of Engineering. Of course, as engineers, we have been trained to be problem solvers. We are continually seeking creative solutions to address the grand challenges we face. Challenges around sustainability, challenges around data security, challenges around engineering ethics and social justice, to name just a few. And more recently, we have been challenged as educators and researchers by the COVID-19 pandemic. But engineers rise to these kinds of challenges, and our work will endure. I'm excited to serve in this role precisely because I know what this college is capable of. We have researchers who innovate and students who are eager to learn. We have state-of-the-art facilities, including our new annex, which features cutting-edge research and teaching spaces. We've produced breakthroughs in the areas of big data, hydrology, and of course, modeling and simulation. I'm committed to providing leadership that will position the college for a greater future as we enhance our global reputation for research distinction, for socially relevant student-centered curricula, and for being a community of inclusive excellence, one in which our shared values is supported and sustained, and one in which everyone can thrive. As we move into a new academic year, I want to create new resources for our students that focus on undergraduate student success, affinity to the college for our alumni, and positioning graduates for careers beyond the university. Our students need to feel valued and heard, while also providing them with unique learning experiences that broaden critical thinking skills, teamwork, and technical expertise. Inside and outside the classroom, the Iowa experience must be dynamic and engaging as our students experience engineering and see how their studies intersect with the arts, medicine, and maybe now more than ever, public health. Of course, our commitment to undergraduate education is just one aspect of what we do in the College of Engineering. I have noted some of the areas of research excellence among our faculty. Where we have a further opportunity to showcase and enhance our research is through our partnerships with industry and government agencies. Our work has already made healthcare safer and streamlined. We have helped develop next generation technologies for use in aircraft and motor vehicles. And in what brings us here today, our work has helped improve the safety and the work of military personnel and first responders. Through our partnerships with industry and government, we have seen our innovations used in the field. We have seen innovations that have, without a doubt, saved lives. In the months and years to come, we hope to create more of these partnerships through the organizations we have contacts in, and through those led by our alumni, so that we can further solidify our status as a global leader in producing technologies that can be deployed around the world. I came on as dean in unusual times, to say the least. I still have not yet met with many college faculty and staff in a face-to-face setting. I've not yet had the opportunity to talk over a cup of coffee and hear the stories of those who make up our vibrant community. But this, of course, will change. We will be back in our engineering buildings, and we will continue to build community in person together. Although challenging, these are exciting times. We are exploring new methods of teaching and learning, and we are showcasing to the world our ability to adapt and pivot as engineers do. And we are connecting and supporting each other in new ways as well. Mission first, people always. I'm excited about the focus of this summit and the many collaborations it will highlight and produce. Thank you for this opportunity to share some aspects of my vision for the College of Engineering, and I'm eager to hear more about the latest ITI innovations on female body armor simulation and how that work is being applied. Thank you so much. Back over to you, Dr. Malik and Provost Kragel.
Thank you, Harry. Appreciate it. Also want to say thank you to the Natick Soldier Center, PO Soldier, for their leadership in the field, the amazing work they do on a day-to-day basis. We look up and look forward to working with them. I will be presenting a little bit about Santos' work. Let me share my screen. Coming through?
Yep, looks good, Cream.
Okay, so some of you on this call have seen some of the work that we've done over the past 15 years or so. We've had a significant team that has been working on this. While the names on this slide do not represent everybody, but I do want to tell you that our team has members from physiology, from medicine, biomechanics, computer science, and much more. So it's a team effort. It has been 15 years, and I'm proud to say that it's finally maturing enough that it can solve real world problems. Here's just a slide that sort of summarizes what Santos is. We describe him as a physics-based digital human model. And as you know, a lot of people now call it digital twin, same thing, avatar, virtual person, all the same, capable of predicting human behavior without pre-recorded data and while considering physiology. We evaluate the human performance, process design, product design, task-based survivability, and so on. And I think at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is reduce prototype development, save time, save a lot of resources, time and money, and save lives. And so I will go through just a few of the projects that we've done that we're involved in, specifically at the end toward armor design, assessment, and testing. So let me begin with just explaining what Santos is, in case you have not come across. He's a human being that lives inside a computer. We are trying to make it as real as possible. So he has what we call 215 degrees of freedom. So the wrist is 3 degrees, the elbow is 1, total 215. And 3 things that are critical is that he predicts behavior. We don't tell him what to do. He's physics-based. He responds to what we ask him to do. If it's too heavy, if he's too fatigued, or she is too tired, the system will let us know that they can't do this. And it's all physiology-based. Here's some of the examples that we've done in the past. So this is a tool that we've transitioned to the U.S. Marines. It's called Grunt Sim. It enables them, so they have about 30 some warfighting scenarios. Each one is segmented into, for example, this is a stair climb, this is a ladder climb. And in order to validate against what Santos does, we've used their data for years. This was a 5-year program to validate against what the physics that Santos can predict. So if you ask him to carry a 100-pound backpack, and today he's a 20-year-old male of a certain anthropometry, of a certain strength, of a certain fatigue. So you sort of design the human that you want, and you ask him to do something, and if he can't, he'll tell you, I cannot. He's able to tell you energy expenditures, hydration, and quite a bit of other things I will cover shortly. You can take soldier variability up and down. You can make him a very tall person, but not so strong. So weight, body type, strength, fatigue, hydration, energy, and many more parameters can be changed in order to design your own person. So imagine if you want to test something new, whether it's a new helmet or a new backpack or a new weapon, you can come across, design hundreds of virtual humans, digital twins, and ask that digital twin to do the work for you. Here's an example, just in terms of an example. We've equipped 2 soldiers, very similar, built 2 different load configurations, and we've asked them to do an extended load carriage, miles of carriage. And the outputs are shown here, where the VO2, which is fatigue levels, the hydration levels, are all calculated. How do we know that's true? We've worked over the years with many military. Here I show you cerium. That's where a lot of this data has been validated against. But we've worked with many military agencies, government agencies, to establish the data, the validation, the verification. Here's another example. This is a jump, and in this case, I'm showing Sophia as opposed to Santos. And on top, so we're going to try to replicate that jump. This is what they do in order to test new equipment. Typically, they bring hundreds of people. It takes quite a bit of time with all the variations, with all the load configurations that are different. And here's Sophia trying to do the same work. And here's a different Sophia with a different build and weight that's doing. As you can see, we have not, if there's just one message that I'd really like to get across, we have not taught Sophia how to do this. We do not tell Sophia, hey, this is the highest you can go to, but it's rather a calculation based on just a significant amount of data that has occurred in the background, where she comes back and she can say, I've done this, I can do this, this is how far I can do, this is my posture while doing it. And these are all the physiological measures that I have expended during that work. Another example of a loaded up, or at least armor, Santos sitting in a vibrating vehicle, subjected to, in this case, there was a battery connection in the back, and he's subjected to a significant vibration. Just understanding how the body moves, given those waves of vibration, is very important. Another physics-based is a ride design where you're subjecting the human, and again, you can vary the human, make him a small person, tall person, very strong. But here's the dynamics behind it, the physics aspect of subjecting a human to something and see how they respond. So it's a true human simulator. The maturity I mentioned before is why now? Why after 15 years? I mean, we've been doing a lot of this work, adding a lot of value to the code. It is millions of lines of code now. But I would say the AI aspect that has matured over the past couple of years has been significant. So using deep learning, using a lot of tools within the AI system have enabled us to do quite a bit more just in the past 2 or 3 years. Some of the studies that I mentioned, this just shows how we capture strength, for example. So we've worked with the U.S. Marines to understand the limits of strength on major joints in the body. So we have these machines that are called biodecks. We have them, the Marines have them, and they pass the population through it, and then we understand the limit of what a joint can do. That's just one example. We've implemented quite a bit of studies over the years. Usarium has been very kind and collaborative with us to work on energy and hydration and many more, but there's quite a few. Some of the projects that we are involved right now in, I'm just going to show a couple. This one, as you all know, the U.S. Army has decided, has been working very hard over the past couple of years to design a new fitness test. Instead of PFT, it's called the ACFT, the Army Combat Fitness Test. And it's 6 events in what they've selected the University of Iowa, the Santos program, in order to correlate those to the soldier common tasks. And so what we're doing is in the field, in the lab, capturing the motion, simulating using Santos, understanding the thresholds of where the Army has decided what they call green, yellow, green, gray, gold, and black. My apologies. The colors are very important in terms of threshold of what a human can do. In terms of the armor and PPE, virtual design and testing, I'd like to cover just a few of the projects that we've done in the past. In general, we've worked with armor design companies. We've worked with armor manufacturing companies. And I would say typically, so for example, in this case, it's a design process where that company was working with SOCOM, designing very specific armor. We simulate on the warfighter, we simulate the PPE, we do a lot of analysis, and then we do the performance and optimization. During that process, we've had to spend about 7 years, by the way, creating an entire set of accurate anatomy. We work with a medical publishing company called Elsevier to develop the entire human body anatomy one by one, just every muscle, every vein, circulatory, nervous system. And we're now using this to understand injury, to understanding injury mitigation, what happens to the body. A little older program, but this is more about loading up the body with armor, a specific type of armor, understanding mobility, assessing what and how it affects the body. Do we do it all? Absolutely not. This is only what we can do in terms of a human model on the computer. Is the need for physical testing there? Absolutely. You can't get away from that. But we do believe that the human testing on a virtual digital twin is critical to reduce the cost. A good example I always give is just the flight simulation world. You're all familiar. It used to be so many hours up in the jet, hands-on, but now on a simulator, you can spend 50% of your time. The human model has not gotten there yet. We would love for Santos to become so biofidelic and so accurate that it gets there. Another company, the CEO will be presenting a little later afternoon, amazing manufacturing of very light protective armor. We had a contract with them to evaluate and test a specific type of armor, and again, for a military client. And the experience was just amazing, using the human simulation system to answer questions that would have taken at least a year. We were able to do it a lot faster. We've done quite a bit of work on trying to predict hits and rays, and now using some AI to assess the PPE in terms of coverage and the anatomy within, what it hits within the body, whether it's the kidney or liver, what the damage is. This was with a company called Cry Associates out of New York. They do very specific PPE design for the clients. Finally, I just want to say one word about modeling soft armor, which has been a huge challenge in this community. Modeling rigid body plates is much easier. You understand their mass, their location, center of gravity, their inertia, how they affect the body, what they protect. Pretty straightforward, and how it simulates on the body. But modeling and simulating soft armor is a significant challenge we've been battling with for years. I think we're making some headway in terms of comfort and chafing and collar going up, just things that typical mechanical system design and simulation does not do. So we're tackling these problems now. My final slide, just as a summary, virtual humans are finally maturing. It took us, and I know other groups very similar. There's a big group in Japan does very, great work. We believe virtual humans are finally really maturing much faster than before. They can not replace the need for physical testing. You still need people on the ground wearing things, testing things. But we do believe that it does reduce cost and time in the design process, and it certainly reduces resources during testing and evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kareem. There's been a few questions submitted. I don't know if you've seen them, but I'll ask them so the audience hears. So from the Roebuck Research and Consulting Group, John Roebuck asked, can the software that you've described be used for designing and evaluating different types of armor, such as personal protective equipment for COVID-19 and other types of equipment that's worn by males and females?
The COVID-19 problem specifically requires quite a bit of computational fluid dynamics, which we are now linking that to the Santos effort. aerosols being hit at the face specifically, how they travel, how, if you put a certain PPE versus another, is something that we are looking at linking right now. Currently in a state, no, it does not.
And a follow-up question to that regarding others that want to use Santos software or conduct online learning. What are some other ways that external groups or agencies can leverage either the software Santos or learning how to use it in different programs for modeling and simulation at ITI?
So I'll answer in two different A and B. A is for academic institutions. The University of Iowa has decided to provide that free cost. We want everybody to use it. In terms of military, government agencies, and so on, we're working with the university now in order to release a version of the software that's completely free of cost, free of licensing, and that we're hoping that would be finalized soon. We were hoping, as you know, Travis, you've been helping me with this, we were hoping to provide that today, actually, as this conference launches, but legalities of it will be coming, but we're committed to providing this. Our partnerships with, I see Greg Dietrich is online from DAC. Our partnership with them, for example, has led to a lot of good things, and they have interest in having a license-free code where people can use and so on. So we're working on it.
Okay, and one final question from the Office of Naval Research, Dr. Tim Bentley. I'll summarize the question. They're doing some work on digital twins. I-Predict stands for the Incapacitation Prediction for Readiness in Expeditionary Domains, an integrated computational tool. And there's interest in understanding can Santos and Sophia be used to help with readiness?
Yeah, first of all, hi, Dr. Bentley. Glad you've joined. Appreciate that very much. Absolutely would love to talk more. I'll reach out next week for sure.
Okay, and actually we do have one more question from Air Force Research Labs. Eric Beier, do you have information on the models that Sophia and Santos used to predict injury? So what data or what injury models have been used? And then secondly, can various objects be simulated and collided with Santos from, say, blast particles, blunt objects to simulate injuries?
So there's two types of injuries that we've worked with. One is just a massive data, 3-year effort at collecting injury, but more on the biomechanical injury. So we're talking ACL injury, for example, trying to predict those during training on the field and so on. So that's one type of injury. The second type of injury is more blunt, penetration and so on. That we're working with DAC. They have the ORCA system that's very well established, being used quite a bit by people. And one effort that we have with them is to tie Santos to the ORCA system. And I thought there was a second portion of that. I can't remember.
It was a question of, can blunt objects or rays or particles be simulated to collide with Santos? And does it just hit the outside or inside?
So we have some collision detection capabilities. They're not the most advanced. I'd love to discuss with you and show you. I would say yes, to some extent. I've seen better ones.
Okay.
So.
Thank you, Kareem. Thank you, Dr. Malik.
Thank you. Thank
you.
Well,
that puts us a little bit ahead of schedule. We're going to try to keep this time, so we're going to take a break, allow everyone to bio break and come back. So we're going to have a 5-minute break, and we're going to accelerate the schedule 10 minutes to the left. So we'll be starting back up instead of 0940 Central Time. will be starting at 09:30 Central Time. So next up will be Department of Homeland Security, Chris. And so, Chris, if you're online, I saw you online earlier. If you're good with starting 10 minutes ahead of time, we'll get your slides ready, and then we'll be back in 5 minutes.
That's great. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, everybody. Okay, welcome back from break. Welcome back to the 2020 Iowa Virtual Human Summit. We're sliding the beginning 10 minutes left, and now I have the honor of introducing Chris Dooley and our team from the Department of Homeland Security. Chris and Gladys is online. They're with the Department of Homeland Security, the National Urban Security Technology Laboratory, NewSteel, and their System Assessment and Validation for Emergency Responders, SAVER. So it's the DHS NewSteel SAVER program. Is doing some phenomenal work. I've heard them describe themselves as the consumer reports for national law enforcement and Department of Homeland Security, where they evaluate all kinds of interesting technology. So we're so glad, Chris, you're able to join us, and I will turn it over to you now.
Thanks. Will you be displaying my slides? Perfect. Thank you. Good morning. So my name is Chris Dooley, and I'll be providing an overview of the Department of Homeland Security's National Urban Security Technology Laboratory, specifically the lab's System Assessment and Validation for Emergency Responders program, also known as SAVER. First off, I'd like to thank the University of Iowa Technology Institute for the opportunity to present to you all today. Next slide. The National Urban Security Technology Laboratory, the acronym pronounced NewSteel, is a test and evaluation asset for the first responder community. Next slide. NewSteel has been serving the nation for more than 70 years. Starting out under the Atomic Energy Commission, the lab has a rich history in environmental radiation measurements. In the aftermath of September 11th, the lab's mission shifted to focus on the needs of the first responder community under the Department of Homeland Security. Next slide. So this morning, I'm going to provide brief overviews of NewSteel's mission, operational testing, the SAVER program, as well as our ballistic resistant body armor for women project. NewSteel is a federally owned and managed laboratory devoted to helping first responders use technology efficiently and effectively. We do so by conducting equipment assessments, serving as technical advisors, and providing RAD-NUC response and recovery guidance. Today, I'm going to focus on the equipment assessment aspects. Next slide. So NewSteel conducts operational field assessments on developmental prototypes. This provides first responders an opportunity to suggest enhancements to equipment prior to commercialization. One of the things that we highlight is the crucial aspect of securing a facility that will allow for operational testing with conditions that align with the responder use cases. These images you're seeing here are from an enhanced rescue hoist glove field assessment. And we identified a venue that had indoor hoist towers that were capable of generating wind and rain to simulate the conditions that one might encounter in a helicopter rescue. Next slide. NewSteel also conducts operational assessments of commercially available products. Here again, the venue and simulated scenarios are key. These assessments are comparative in nature, allow responders to conduct the same operational activities with multiple products. Here you'll see some responders using detectors, both indoors and outdoors, which will allow the evaluators to assess readability of screens in different lighting. This next set of images here are from an in-suit communication. Back one. Thank you. The second set of images on that screen are from an in-suit communication assessment. You'll see the responder on the right in his hazmat gear in a large concrete room. This would allow for echoing, and just another case of venue being important in assessing items. Next slide. So New Steel Saver program, as mentioned earlier, is dubbed the Consumer Reports for First Responders, and it focuses on those commercially available products that are of interest to the nationwide first responder community. Next slide. Saver's mission is focused on answering two questions: what equipment is available and how does it perform? In order to answer these questions, we gather and distribute information that can be used to help procure, operate, and maintain equipment. We collaborate with first responders who will provide unbiased comparative assessments, and then we publish non-sensitive knowledge products to a public-facing website known as the Saver Document Library. Next slide. The Saver program has developed more than 1,000 knowledge products, and these can be accessed either through the Saver Document Library, which is found on the DHS website, or upon a request for those containing sensitive information. These knowledge products are the result of more than 300 projects, representing 18 of FEMA's Authorized Equipment List, or AEL, categories. The AEL is a list of approved equipment types that allow for purchasing under FEMA's preparedness grant programs. And more than 2,200 responders from throughout the nation have participated in the Saver program, assessing more than 650 products. Next slide. Currently, Saver has nearly 20 ongoing projects that range from intricate equipment, such as explosive trace detectors, to protective gear, including tactical eyewear. Next slide. Now for some of the key components or outputs of the Saver program. First off here, we have a tech note, which is a high-level 2-page overview focusing on answering basic questions about an area of technology. What it is, how it works, why do I care? And this is a sample of one that was done in 2016 on ballistic resistant body armor for women. Next slide. So this is a sample of a market survey report. These reports are a comprehensive snapshot of the commercial marketplace for a particular type of equipment. It explains how the technology works, highlights key components for consideration and selection, and it includes a comparative matrix of key features applicable to responder missions that you'll see on the right. Next slide. Next, we'll move on to Saver assessments. So these occur over the course of 3 or 4 days, where responders perform hands-on, comprehensive, and comparative evaluations in simulated operational scenarios. These are images from a tactical eyewear assessment that occurred at the CCDC-SC in Natick, Massachusetts. Next slide. So Saver is responder-driven to ensure that features, products, methods of assessments are applicable to their operational use cases. The feedback is organized into 5 categories: capability, usability, deployability, maintainability, and affordability. Next slide. Here are examples and characteristics to assist the responders in aligning the criteria identified within each Saver category. The next 4 slides are examples of how assessment evaluation feedback is compiled and displayed in assessment reports. This is a representation of individual criteria ratings for different products. The fully shaded green circles represent a highest score rating, and the unshaded red represent the lowest. Next slide. So we add up the scores in such a way to reflect the priorities determined by the focus group recommendations. Each of the evaluation criteria is assigned a weight depending on its relative importance to the focus group. We take a weighted sum of all the scores for the evaluation criteria in a category to get a score. Similarly, the categories themselves are each assigned a weight. Then we take the weight of the sum of each of the categories to get that overall score, which you'll see on the next slide. So here, this represents the overall assessment and category score for each product that was assessed at that event. Next slide. A high-level advantages and disadvantage table is compiled near the end of each assessment report, and this includes the product image, pricing, overall assessment score, as well as those advantages and disadvantages. The planning of the assessment is the core of the Saver focus group. During these focus groups, first responders and subject matter experts with both professional knowledge and personal experience gather to identify what features are important to them, which operational activities are best to assess those features, how to select products for the assessment, and what specifications may impact purchasing decisions. Next slide. In September 2019, NESTIL held a focus group on ballistic resistant body armor for women. During this focus group, federal and local law enforcement officers provided information about their expertise related to soft body armor. Next slide. So the biggest takeaway from this focus group was the emphasis of a proper fit to maximize protection. An example is the lack of coverage that's in that unprotected triangle at the bust line. And the American Association for Testing and Materials Committee of Homeland Security Applications, the E54, has developed a standard practice for body armor wearer measurements and fitting armor, the ASTM E3003. And this highlights that female wearers require more measurements than male wearers to achieve a proper armor fit, and identifies those body landmarks for measuring. For more information on ASTM and their subcommittee or the standard practice, please reach out to them at services@astm.org. And this graphic shows examples of those body landmarks that were mentioned. The focus group has 3 primary components: identifying evaluation criteria, then prioritizing that criteria, and finally determining how to assess products against that criteria. The next few slides will walk us through each component. First off, the participants identify their experiences, how they use the equipment, and features that are most important to them, such as length, attachment points, and side attachment closures. That initial discussion led to 5 areas for consideration: key features, carriers, carrier closure designs, armor transport and storage, and armor usage. Those key features in that first bullet focus on 3 patterns that could be used to achieve a curved shape to better fit the female form. The 3-piece design, which you can see all the way to the left, has 2 vertical seams centered on each breast that connect a larger central section to panels on either side. These are also sometimes referred to as princess seams. The 2-piece design has a horizontal seam that connects an upper panel that angles over the top of the bust, a flat lower panel to cover the lower half of the abdomen and bust. And then additionally, there is a design that could use sewn folds or darts to create a cup shape in the soft armor. Next slide. An in-depth conversation occurred regarding the distinction between covert and external carriers. Here are some examples of the various carriers that were brought to the focus group by participants to go through some demo procedures. Includes putting in to the carriers, taking the armor out, and some of the different accessories. So carrier closures must allow the panels to connect to each other over the top of the shoulders and along the sides of the torso. Those shoulder straps can be sewn in or affixed with Velcro. The length and positioning will affect the coverage at the top of the chest and the abdomen, as well as the overall length. The side attachments, next slide. These side attachments are typically connected using Velcro and may be completely removable, which allows for the option of donning back to front or front to back to ensure a snug fit and proper coverage. Next slide. The responders emphasized the importance of storing body armor flat to prevent anything that could impact their coverage, such as the stretching of those shoulder straps if it was hung from a hanger. Next slide. We then moved on to this sorting of criteria into saver categories that we reviewed earlier. The criteria are identified as traits by which the equipment will be assessed. Next slide. Which are fully displayed here. You'll see the majority of the criteria identified will be operationally assessed, and then there are a few items that are for specification only, such as color and laundering. Next, the criteria were weighted from scoring a 1 to 5 using the below scale. Next slide. The saver categories are assigned percentages by the participants based on what they deem important. Here are a few examples. They identified usability as the highest priority, followed by capability. Next slide. Finally, we discussed scenarios, project scope, and project selection features. Next slide. Here are the recommended 6 scenarios for assessing these products. So first is procurement and fitting, which includes the entire fitting process, ordering, delivery, and adjustments. Donning and doffing, focusing on the removal from storage bags, assembly, donning the armor, doffing, disassembling, and returning to those storage bags. Surveillance, so wearing the armor under civilian clothes and then standing or sitting for an extended period of time. Patrol car, entering a vehicle, putting on your seatbelt, backing up, driving, reaching for equipment to operate, such as a radio, exiting the vehicle in both a routine and expedited manner. Physical training and defensive tactics, So exercises that simulate situations encountered by law enforcement, such as crawling, jumping over objects, conducting searches. And finally, weaponry. So practicing drawing weapons of varying shapes and sizes and transitioning between weapons while wearing that soft armor. Next slide. So 8 product selection criteria were identified by the focus group. First off was that the equipment needed to be certified as a level 3A by the National Institute of Justice in accordance with their ballistic resistance of body armor standard 010106. Focusing on covert armor that could be worn underneath clothing. Being available in various female styles with distinct shapes. Having side panel straps that allowed for front to back attachments for donning. Next slide. Specific sizing features for the female form, including a range of cup sizes, a variation in attachment points at the top and the sides, different materials for the internal lining to assist with breathability and moisture wicking, and then exterior carrier vest options for accessories, such as having pockets or loops. Next slide. The Ballistic Resistant Body Armor for Women Focus Group Report, which includes most of the information presented on today, is available publicly at that SABRE document library. The hyperlink is in the right-hand corner and circled for reference. Next slide. So we're currently awaiting the NIJ's revision to the standard 0101.06 to be approved and released. That'll include additional specifications for armor design for women. Following that, equipment will be certified to that standard by the private sector manufacturers. And then the next step of this project will be to plan for an operational assessment based on the information identified during the focus group. Next slide. If you have any follow-up questions about New Seal or the SABLE program, please feel free to email us at newseal@hq.dhs.gov. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you very much, Chris. That was fascinating. And there was one question that you already answered, which had to do with next steps.
Okay.
There was a second question just asking about the utilization within New Steel or the SABRE program of modeling and simulation for evaluation of new products or potential use of virtual humans / digital twins.
Yeah, so that's something that we have not yet incorporated into the SABRE program. I know it's something that Gladys and I both spoke with you about as it being a potential for moving forward, not only in SABRE, but in some other first responder focused programs that New Seal runs.
And there was a third question that came in from additional equipment that you see coming down the line for your consumer reports review. You've listed all types of equipment that have utilization within the military. Are there other pieces of equipment that are, DHS is now being interested in evaluating in the future?
So every year we do a survey of first responders to determine kind of which products to move forward in assessing. We're currently in that phase now. So if anybody in the audience has any suggestions or information that they would like to see on specific products, they can email that newseal@hq.dhs email address, and that information will be provided to Gladys and I for review.
Outstanding. Thank you.
Sure.
No further questions at this time. Really appreciate your participation, and I know that there will be some additional follow-up and questions, so thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next, Mike Canizaro, Director, Science and Technology Division for the Synthetic Training Environment. And the topic is the Synthetic Training Environment, or the STE, as is commonly known, Technology Integration. So Mike, over to you.
Hey, great. Thanks, Travis. So I'm Mike Canizaro, right? So I'm the Science and Technology Director for STE. I help coordinate the science and technology initiatives across government, industry, and academia that fill critical gaps in our signature efforts, and I'll talk a little bit about that. I'll briefly
of the STE, but he's their Director of Science and Technology.
Sorry, I'm getting some. And so I will briefly discuss the problem and our signature efforts and addressing those problems for context. But more importantly to this audience is how we're approaching integration of new technologies and how that enables capabilities we have not been able to achieve in Army training in the past. And I'll weave the concept into the theme of the summit as I go. So next slide, please. So current Army training systems, they've served us well. but were developed under conditions that make modern requirements difficult to achieve. Army training systems need to scale to every echelon from soldier on up. They need to do that seamlessly and intuitively, as well as providing useful feedback and tutoring and no negative training. They need to be available and deployable so that training goes to the user and not the other way around. They need to draw from authoritative information systems and replicate the operational environment with the immersion, the fidelity, the accuracy that enables and encourages live, virtual, and in the future constructive training as a means to hone individual and team skills in a controlled but challenging environment. Our systems today don't do that as effectively as they could, and so the Army has prioritized STE as part of its modernization strategy. Next slide, please. So for context, the core of the STE is comprised of three main core capabilities. The training simulation software is the core engine, provides the physics and the virtual environment to the user. The training management tool, the TMT, is the user interface for scenario generation, orchestration of the event, tutoring, and after-action visualization. One World Terrain provides the global 3D terrain database for users to execute a mission virtually anywhere in the world with high fidelity, and it contains the surfaces, structures, models, and that enables fair fight and the ability to go and virtually conduct a scenario wherever it's needed before you get there. Additionally, I'm sorry, go back for 1 second. So additionally, there's hardware interfaces that plug in. So we have reconfigurable trainers for air and ground. Then we have the immersive systems that are worn by the soldier or team in order to perform either individual or squad skills. So next slide. So the STE is taking Army modernization seriously, and one of the ways we're doing that is through external outreach. The STE is prototyped and experimented with industry and academic partners in the past to help refine requirements and understand the art of the possible. That's fairly common in traditional acquisition, but STE is uniquely postured to continue that theme. As we develop and deploy these training systems, we can perpetually take advantage of commercial innovation in areas like 3D systems modeling, gaming, AR and VR, artificial agents, and other areas, and apply them in a military relevant context. When we do this in a partnership with industry in a continuing improvement process, we can capitalize on investments from industries that far outspend us in innovative technologies, which keeps the STE relevant and modern, but we can use that to provide, as a venue to provide unique research that we do that can be folded back into the commercial product. And as that goes to market, it becomes embedded in that product. Things like team skills development, tutoring, terrain feature identification, automated processing, for example. So those items are areas that we look to leverage and partner. Next slide, please. So I'm not going to go through all these. The STE has capabilities that are in current or planned areas of research, but we don't have all of the answers. I just want to highlight some of the key gaps that this community specifically is critical in helping to solve, and that we might be able to offer a platform for others to test their innovations and perform research, and I'll get that into the future. The most obvious in the middle under training simulation software, realistic artificial agents. There's a lot to sort of like unpack in that term, but it means something different to everyone. But we mean not only intelligent agents that interact in the simulation or provide believable virtual human entities, but also the supporting attribution and runtime capabilities in the engine to truly assess the effects of things like mobility, fatigue, concealment, team dynamics, and other effectors that not only impact the results of the specific exercise that you're running, but also have long-term measurable effects at every echelon, and can be aggregated over time and then analyzed with data in a database with analytics that we're also developing. So Others I'll just briefly highlight here. Intelligent tutoring is an area that the DoD and specifically the Army has a lot of investment in, including feedback through virtual humans. Multi-domain battle and replication of the operational environment adds additional dimensions to the level of complexity that not only the agents that are being developed, but also the infrastructure, the engine needs to support. And then the entirety of the terrain research is similar in that it not only affects the person or the vehicle that's operating in that environment, like the human person, but the attribution necessary for a virtual human or artificial agent to operate in that environment might be different than what a person in the loop might need. Again, we're adding complexity to enable the immersion and realism demanded by users of these training systems. And these are the areas that we can partner in to make sure that we're delivering the best product that we can. So let's go to the next slide. So we have a lab that's somewhat unique among CFTs, but one of the hurdles of innovation with the Army and any other large organization is the investment required to establish infrastructure, right, to showcase new technologies. Our vision is to kind of remove that barrier and provide a venue in which the baseline STE components are accessible and easily connected to in a controlled, instrumented, connected environment and allow for rapid integration and prototyping. The Technology Integration Facility Lab, it's capable of live, virtual, and mixed reality scenarios. So we can assess and measure the effects of changes anywhere in the training system. Including, for example, changes to the loadout of a warfighter. So circling back to much of the theme of the day. So for female body armor or any body armor, as the theme for the summit, we could run back-to-back scenarios in a well-understood augmented reality environment that measures combat effectiveness, including all of its associated metrics. And we can rapidly and repeatedly assess and understand the effects of that equipment. So human being is equipped with varied versions piece of kit, in this case body armor, and we're assessing the effects of that element, minimizing the variables, and in a scenario run hundreds of times by others, and so we can aggregate those lessons learned over time. But additionally, those metrics become part of a database, and so the attributes of a completely virtual avatar, virtual human, can take those metrics learned, and then it can affect them in a virtual simulated entity. So they become a part of that authoritative database of empirical performance models that we couldn't really develop in other ways. So for the lab, we recently had a soft opening here in Orlando. And it's basically open for limited business as we continue to improve the scope and of the demonstrations and capabilities that we have. And we believe that having a venue like this is vital not only to the success of the STE itself, but as in order to foster innovation in areas that STE can perform as sort of a test bed function for others. So let's go to the next slide. Often we're asked how to get involved. So we're revamping the system right now to make it a little bit more manageable for the tech staff to manage, including myself. But the system is up and running. So this portal gives everyone sort of a fair opportunity to read about what you have to offer and to vector it in the right direction for someone that can follow up. So this is an area where you can submit a white paper or some information about areas, concepts, ideas, products that you believe can be applicable to STE or areas that we can partner and jointly develop. And so sometimes that can just be a standalone demo. It could be full integration, or maybe it's a future research project with our S&T partners at Soldier Center or ERDEC. But this portal is sort of the best way for us to reliably and give everyone a fair shot in order for us to manage the process of collaboration. This community here is uniquely postured to collaborate in critical areas, and I encourage anyone that has ongoing work in the areas that I mentioned earlier or others to submit to the portal. So next slide. This is my last slide here. So in conclusion, So at the STE, we're trying to change how we do business in order to perpetually innovate Army training systems. But you can see that technology innovation doesn't limit itself just to training. We want to do that in a way that enables improved capabilities on the commercial side as well. So we do our best to be open, to maintain currency in our message. And in doing that, we can kind of deliver the best training environment to our soldiers in the most efficient but also effective way. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that presentation. Apologize for the crosstalk early on. There was two questions. One, do you have a point of contact for the TIF, for the Technology Integration Facility? If organizations want to reach out and partner, who should they contact?
Yeah, it's a great question. Hopefully I preempted it with the portal link there. And if you didn't get to copy it down, we can probably post that somewhere. But that's the best way to get a hold of anyone in the lab. Okay. So whether that submission goes to the TIF or whether it goes to S&T or it goes to someone at our capability development office, that portal is sort of our focal point to make sure that we not only capture the intent of the message, but also that we have those stored for use in the future if they're not current, if we don't need them right now, but we need them in the future. So that's really the best bet.
Okay, yep, copy that. And then a question from a professor currently doing research with NASA and atmospherics from Dr. June Wang. The question is, we know that the human and equipment and body armor's performance can vary with weather conditions, such as strong winds. Obviously in Iowa, we will attest to that. Dust, rain, freezing. So in your simulation environment, how are the atmospheric parameters simulated, or how are they considered?
Yeah, so a lot of those areas are still under development, but conceptually, all of those factors will be part of the simulation, and for the reasons that were described in the question. So the mechanism by which we draw from authoritative sources and the models that are instantiated in the engine that's running the simulation and the training environment in the background. A lot of those details are literally under development right now, but they are critical parts of the requirement, and so they are being actively developed. And so if there are, and I know that we have some connections previously through both the Air Force and I believe NASA as well for a lot of those things. So, but if there's something that you think we're missing, certainly submit to the portal, or we can link up directly and discuss those things. Okay.
So anything like a weather prediction model, the best bet might be just a short little white paper submitted through the AL portal.
Yeah, for sure. And okay. You know, we're trying to take into account weather that matters, you know, currently, but also climate when you're creating a scenario for an area that you're not familiar with, or that you need to create a scenario that maybe doesn't exist. And so both of those are critical parts of the STE architecture. Over.
Okay. Thank you very much for your presentation. That was extremely helpful. And those are the questions for now. Appreciate your time. We're going to transition to the next presentation. It is Lieutenant Colonel Ricardo Christopher, Program Executive Office for Simulation Training and Instrumentation, commonly known as PO-STRI. Lieutenant Colonel Christopher is Program Manager for Medical Simulation. And joining Lieutenant Colonel Christopher is Mr. Jerry Higman, also Deputy Program Manager for Medical Simulation for STRI. So gentlemen, welcome, and I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, good morning all. Thank you very much for that introduction. As was told, my name is Colonel Christopher, the Product Manager for the U.S. Army Operational Medicine, Medical Simulation Training Center within PEO-STRI. My deputy, Dr. Jerry Higman, and also online I have my NCOIC and 68 Whiskey type combat medic, Masson Gonzalez. The Mystic is a program of record that provides training to the number 2 MOS in the Army, which is our combat medics, also known as 68 Whiskeys. There are currently 33,000 68 Whiskeys in the Army's inventory, and we provide simulation training on the 3 preventable causes of death in combat, which is traumatic hemorrhage, tension pneumothorax, and obstructed airways to medics, emergency medical technicians, firefighters, combat lifesavers. The Mystics provide medical simulation training to over 70,000 soldiers per year and train life-saving techniques to conserve the fighting strength on the battlefield. With that, I'll pivot to our second slide. Our purpose is to address the capability requirement gap for the medical trauma of female soldiers on the battlefield and lay out the way ahead to provide realistic tactical combat casualty care training for all genders in multi-domain operations. I would just like to tell you that we currently have 21 Mystic sites located all over the world. And between FY21 to FY24, we'll be extending with an addition of 4 more. Next slide, please. So, female soldiers were permitted to serve in the military combat roles since 2013. From 2013 until year to date, we've been sustaining greater casualties and a greater rate of death on the battlefield, more so than our male soldiers, due to different anatomical structure and the human body makeup, specifically for different types of wounds that has been received by females. We also saw the hesitancy by male soldiers to render treatment based on our sexual harassment training that we've received, and the fear to touch and to render medical aid to our female soldiers and team members, battle buddies on the battlefield. At this time, I'll pivot and turn the briefing over to Dr. Higman as he'll brief the next 2 following slides.
Good morning, all. Soldiers on the battlefield continue to die from the 3 primary causes of death. Now, these are preventable, treatable causes of death. And the soldiers are continuing to die from these causes only because the aid that is being rendered is either non-timely, incorrect time, incorrect action, and or that hesitancy that Colonel Christopher had just mentioned. So the 3 preventable causes of death on the battlefield are traumatic hemorrhage. That's where a limb is amputated and then blood is emerging from the body quickly. The person will die. An airway compromise, where your airway in the throat section and or the face has been compromised and you can no longer breathe in. And the third way is tension pneumothorax, gunshot wound to the chest, inability for the lungs as the lungs are contracting and expanding in order to draw in air properly. These 3 preventable causes are well known, and we have training simulations put into place for the soldier to train to know how to prevent these deaths from happening. So now we ask the question when we look at this slide, well, what is going on with the female service member? There's been several studies out. I quoted one of our papers that we're currently using on the casualty statistics for the female death rate. To be clear here, the definition of a casualty, of course, is anytime you have someone that is declared either dead or missing, incapacitated, injured, basically taken out of the fight is what we define as a casualty, but death is more specific. What we're seeing is that the fatality rate for females in theater, in the combat zones, we have OEF, that's Afghanistan, OIF, Iraq. The death rates are higher than compared to the male counterparts. And what we do know with the female in terms of the bodily injuries that are being incurred, it's in the abdomen area or in the chest area. So the Human Summit conference that we're having in terms of body armor, et cetera, is very relevant here. Are we protecting the abdomen correctly, and or how is the chest armor, how's the body armor fitting? But that's what we do know. We also know that the females typically, although they are in the combat zone, they're typically not out on patrol in the front lines, and so they'll typically incur an IED further toward the back. So that we know. So it's typically not a gunshot wound. It's more of an IED type event, which is an explosion that occurs. And so you're going to have, chest injuries or abdominal injuries from that. We also know in the training that we provide to our soldiers, our male soldiers, the majority of the population, right? These trained medical personnel, 68 Whiskeys, as Colonel Christopher alluded to, there is a hesitancy that we're seeing when that soldier is coming up to a female casualty and not applying the correct aid initially, and or hesitating, and or just not performing the proper manner of treatment. You would right away assess the casualty. You would right away do a body sweep. That's the first two things you're going to do. And we're seeing there's a hesitancy in terms of doing the body sweep. The armor, chest armor, would be on the person. They would need to take that off. And then there's other layers of clothing that have to be removed. This is where SHARP, as Colonel C had said earlier, is alive and well. We see this in our training with the males versus doing surveys on female mannequins, and a step higher on actual female soldiers, because we really don't have good valid female mannequins. So this is the problem that we need to overcome. If there's a training issue going on, and then there's also perhaps an issue in terms of the type of body armor and how that's being worn. If I could go to the next slide, please. So what we require as an Army, what we require as DoD service men and women who are going into harm's way, we need for our service members to be able to train to accurate, relevant, and realistic simulation devices. Specifically, we're talking the female trauma mannequin. We do not have an accurate representation right now of a female trauma mannequin. The Army has the requirement for it, but we do not have the actual material solution. This material solution must be capable of everything that the male mannequins have: respiratory, breathing action, the ability to bleed, the ability to leak out other types of fluids, the ability to simulate physiological responses. It has to have anatomic motion. The female mannequin must move around. Has to be this, the correct height, weight proportion. Cannot use the female, the male mannequin, 180-pound version that we currently have. So in other words, our requirement is for all genders. That's what the requirement documents we have say. And this is something that we're now encouraging the industry to look at, to explore, to examine the anatomical differences that need to be considered, such that we can successfully arrive at a female mannequin which will be able to produce the correct training simulations, so that when we do our training events, the law of primacy, do it right the first time, is not being violated. And so we have a strong set of collaboration events going on, partners, various ongoing research projects that we're looking at to get at this major problem. But we do ask through this conference the audience to further consider, if you're a researcher, if you're in this area of doing animatronics, please consider the female mannequin, so that we can then finally get at preventing causes of death for the female and overcoming the hesitancy issues that we're seeing. Next slide, please. Colonel Christopher, back to you.
No, thank you. So our way ahead. So our way ahead, providing realistic and training to treat and save female service members on the battlefield. We're actually we've been working with through a few SIBRs. We've been working through STTC, our partners here. We're actually maneuvering through a lot of S&T developments that are going on right now, as they're being developed with demonstrators to leverage current and even future S&T initiatives to get after bringing into our inventory the female mannequin, as Dr. Higman alluded to, the right proportionality, linking it through the synthetic training environment as we look forward. We're even looking to encompass the human physiology software for prolonged care scenarios in an operational environment. We definitely have a lot of iron in the fire. I'll use that analogy. But I would personally send out a request to the team that's online. If you guys are in this area, or even if you're not, but you're working, you have developments that's in this area or going towards this area, please reach out to us. We definitely are currently leveraging relationships and partnerships through S&T with multiple partners. But the more the merrier, so that redundancies, we can eliminate redundancies of processes, but most of all funding. Our end state is to produce the most accurate, realistic medical material solution, training solution that increases the overall readiness and saves females' lives, service members' lives in multiple domain operations. And what we're talking about is bringing something into the inventory that will not only work for the Army, but work for all services, branch of the services. Because I know I'm an Army officer, but I truly know that in conflict, depending on your branch, it doesn't matter. Casualty is a casualty. So if it affects the Army female soldier, it'll affect the Air Force, the Navy, and now the Marines as well too. With that being said, I'll pivot back to Dr. Higman, and then we'll close.
Yes, sir. I think you did a great job in summarizing what our need is, our requirement is, and I would now ask for questions from the audience, if you have any at this point. Over.
But if I may, Dr. Higman, before we pivot to questions, I know that one of our primary concerns, PEO Stride MedSim, is as far as RDT&E funding and procurement, production funding, as we look into the FIDEP 21, FY21 and beyond. There's definitely priorities and decrements that are taking place through the POM process, and I know that it will have an impact on us. So I say that to say this: one of our primary concerns is funding in the area of the female mannequin through RDT&E, RDT&E and procurement production funding from FY21 and beyond. So I'll just put that out there. That's one of our primary concerns. But in spite of that, we will still press on to fulfill our overall objective here, which is to produce the female mannequin. So now I'll pivot to any questions or concerns that the audience might have. Over.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher, Mr. Higman, and Master Sergeant Gonzalez for your presentation. We do have a couple questions. First question from the Department of Defense, Harold Ingram. Is your group considering virtual versions, or how are you incorporating virtual simulation in your training solutions that can be useful for assessing medical processes?
I'll take that. So yeah, Dr. Ingram, thank you very much. Great question. So we do have a virtual simulation that is arising, which we call TC3Sim, Tactical Combat Casualty Care Simulation, and it will provide a capability online, both in a individual soldier scenario or as a collective team, in order to train against the TC3Sim scenarios based on our what we call our Table 8 training elements. Over.
Thank you. And a follow-up to that same question, how might you be able to use virtual data or data that's been collected in the training for use in collective training exercises to bring the medical component to actual collective training and making sure that training incorporates that?
That's a great question too. We currently collect data as we visit each of our MYSTIC sites, and we look at the training events that they're ongoing and that they're working through. Whether it be training again in the collective mode, subterranean training, or in the mountains, or in the forest. The point is, the point of need location dictates, and the type of battlefield engagement that they're going to be going against dictates the type of data that we collect. That data is then placed into formats where we look at the resiliency of the soldier, how well that soldier and the collective squad is able to interact with each other. We then take that same data from the resiliency information that we get back to try to feed that into our simulation processes to make sure that our programs, our instruction are accurate for the scenario, for the locations where we're training, and to make sure that we get at timely, addressing the wounds, et cetera, which is on the simulation that's being conducted. Over.
Sir, if I may, I'll add to that, and then I'll pass the floor, the mic to Masanji. We definitely see the AAR process, using it for resiliency, but definitely extracting the medical training value and then encompassing or incorporating that into future policies, medical policies for tasks, standards, and things of that nature through the doctrine, the medical doctrine. And at this point, I'll pivot to Marsan Gonzalez because he'll probably add some more to what I just said. Over.
Hey, Roger, sir. Thank you, team. Good morning still. I just want to add on to that. Colonel Christopher was definitely correct. Collecting data at this point is through AAR, but through MYSTIC sites, we are converting to actual virtual. We have a system there that's called MPC2, which actually stores data, and then later on instructors can go back and evaluate the training. And then moving into the future, leveraging the STEE platform, going to actual virtual, which stores in the cloud. So anybody and everybody in the service can actually pull that data and learn from it. Over.
Thank you very much. And one final question that comes to you from the Canadian Armed Forces, from Lori Cody. The report on female fatalities using data from 2001 to 2009, we understand that they were not in full combat MOSs until 2013. So what roles were the majority of the females serving while deployed for that fatality report?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah. Go ahead, Colonel C.
Before they started to serve in combat arms, that's what I'll call them, combat arms position. The female soldiers were actually serving in combat service support roles, administration, even the hospital and the medics are considered soft skills in comparison to the combat arms. Logisticians, things of that nature, to the point where they were not on the front lines. However, with our enemies, they were attacking the rear echelon, the combat service support aspects of our troop line, in which we were receiving female casualties, even though they were not out on the front lines in combat roles at that time. But since combat roles, it has definitely picked up on the front line as well as in combat service support roles. Over.
Thank you very much. That has been such a helpful presentation and surprising information, and information that really drives what we do and why we come to work every day. So very critical. Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Christopher, Mr. Higman, and Matt Sergeant Gonzalez. Obviously, thank you for your service also, and those that are on the call. We know it's really helping guide our product development right now. So thank you for that. We will transition now to information from a couple entities from the Navy Postgraduate School out of Monterey, California. I think they're all awake now, perhaps. It's the MOVES Institute, and Lieutenant Colonel Glenn Hodges leads that organization, and they've got some great work that's being done with the RAND Corporation. And representing them today will be Henry Hargrove. Henry will be speaking, and then also they're working very closely with Greg Dietrich and Graves with soldier lethality, the analysis program manager for the Army Futures Command Combat Capability Development Center, Data Analysis Center. So we'll get that acronym out there, AFC, CCDC, DAC. So those two gentlemen will be presenting, and Henry, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, great, Travis. And thank you so much for inviting us to this summit and also hosting this summit. Lot of great stuff being put out there, focusing on not only the physical aspects of people, but also alluding to the cognitive and will and motivation aspects. And that's what I'll be focusing on here. Lieutenant Colonel Hodges could not make it, and neither could Ben Conable, but I am one of the lead developers for the efforts at RAND and also part of the co-chair for the Human Behavior Working Group that I'll be talking about. Next slide, please. So, quite simply, it all started by stating the need. You would think that everyone would accept that, hey, humans are very important. Humans fight those battles. Humans are providing our critical services. Let's focus on the human. But as the Steve presentation talked about, that's not really where modeling and simulation started. It started with the mechanical aspects and the weapon platforms and the equipment. So stating the need was part of the first effort that we undertook. So the quote up there, war is fundamentally a human clash of wills. All war is about changing human behavior. It's pretty grandiose, but that's in the Army Doctrine 3.0 operations, which is one of their core things that guide their operations, and that's still current as of 2019. The next quote, in simulation, when soldiers see a target, they hit it, and when they break, they're broken. Soldiers were coarsely represented with seemingly unlimited capabilities, the same level of strength, motivation, and alertness. That comes from Ron Bowers at CCDC DAC, who's the lead engineer on the Soldier and Squad Trade Space Analysis Framework. But I think that's very true and very fitting. The next quote, it's important to model the human appropriately, not as a robotic system. We so focus on this emerging technology of automation robots, and some members of our working group will say, hey, we already do simulate robots because that's all they are, right? They're just programmed and scripted and not really taking in all that human nuance and understanding. That's from Dr. Angela Boyden at the CCDC Human Systems Integration Group. And then the last quote, developing physical, emotional, spiritual, and ethical resiliency in infantry squads is an imperative. 25 virtual battles before actual battle will attune infantry personnel to the shock of first contact within a hyper-realistic training environment. And that comes from then Secretary Mattis in the so-called 25 bloodless battles memo that he sent out for the department. So it's pretty clear that there's a need to go beyond the physiological per se and start looking at things like the cognitive aspects of humans and also at this will motivational aspect of humans. Lieutenant Colonel Hodges has seen this need throughout his career, starting with his time at ARCIC, that's the Army Capabilities Integration Center, which is now which really transitioned to Army Futures Command, and then continuing today with his work at the MOVES Institute at the Navy Postgraduate School. One tale that he likes to tell is that he was watching a simulation for a general, and the soldier avatars were ordered to march up a hill, and they did so undaunted under a barrage of fire without hesitating, freezing, or fleeing. And the general said, well, that's unrealistic, and immediately dismissed any of the findings from that simulation, which is not good, right? Models and simulation are supposed to inform decision-making, whether it's acquisition or even operational. And if we can't even get past the credibility barrier or the present a level of authenticity, we're failing. And so it's important to present something closer to real human behavior so we have meaningful and credible impact such that military decision-making is affected by the human, and that we identify policy levers focusing on the human that actually improve human readiness. So how are we doing this? So we're not one-dimensional or even three-dimensional, but we have so many different facets that require a diverse set of expertise to achieve that authentic portrayal. Starting with the Army Modeling and Simulation Office GAPS Forum, which they have hosted for a number of years, there was a special session specifically for human behavior where industry, government, and academia came together to start scoping out the need and to seek out solutions to that problem. We've been working, and when I say we, I mean the collective industry, academia, and governments, have all been working on understanding the human, but it's been in patches, right? A paper here, maybe a project series here, but it's hard to encapsulate it all into one place. So in addition to hosting that GAPS forum and transitioning that working group throughout that 1 week session into a whole year, we've been able to collect all these players that you see in the center, with CCDC, DAC sort of being our rallying Army organization. So on the left, you'll see a bunch of different academic and commercial sources who've really participated and stepped up by presenting their ideas, collaborating with others. And then also the Army organizations on the right, TRADOC, the Natick Soldier Center, the Army Research and Development Center, Soldier Lethality, Maneuver Battle Lab down in Georgia, Special Forces Command, as well as the Marine Corps Training and Education Command. All these different organizations identify or have some representatives that have stepped forward and said, hey, what are you working on, academia, industry? How can you help us make our soldiers better, make our soldiers safer, make our mission, easier is the wrong word, more successful as we move forward into this new geopolitical landscape? So that's who we are. And so when we talk about how we do that, it starts with the soldier, right? Model and simulation of the soldier, getting authentic, reactive, and decision-making behavior of the individual. Now we need to spin it out. How about the unit? Authentic social interaction for that group decision-making and sort of the reinforcement of will and motivation that we see within our fighting units, and also our critical services teams are out there, emergency responders, policing, things like that. Then what is the model and simulation of the population? How are we representing the authentic individual and group responses to conflict events? And, that's really hard, because how we are in America or in Canada is different from how we are in Europe or Africa or Asia. And we're just an extremely complicated species that requires a lot of understanding and continual evolution to sort of correct that understanding as we move forward. And there, a lot of the discussion today has been on this human systems integration with body armor and things like that to make people safer. And that's important because we have to make defensible trades and suitability analyses. There's been suggestions that much more comfortable and flexible armor is important because then there's a greater willingness and motivation to wear said armor, which will stop fragmentation. And then lastly, there are other applications that as we get into the far science part of it, bringing in techniques like AI and machine learning to discover new tactics that maybe we've overlooked because of our very human nature, optimize human readiness, and then enhance human performance. So those are sort of like high-level goals. And how do we do this? So CCDC DAC is something called the SSTAF, or Soldier and Squad Trade Space Analysis Framework. And I won't dive too much into it here. Greg Dietrich can certainly connect you with Ron Bowers, who can inform you more about it. But the important thing is that it's a holistic human sort of framework. They look at not only the things that you put on the soldier or the equipment that the soldier uses, but how does the decision-making go into that? How does the social aspects figure into that? And there's a lot of different interaction pieces to that. STE, again, I applaud them for taking on this immense challenge because it's important, going back to Secretary Mass's point, that you need that hyper-realistic training environment so that you are doing something in a safe yet challenging training place so that you're prepared if you have to go to conflict. And then another example is the OneSAF simulation suite. That's an Army premier analytical framework. And we have members that attend our working group that represent OneSAF that say, hey, tell us more about this human behavior aspect because we are interested in incorporating aspects of that as well. The Army is not alone in this. Lieutenant Colonel Hodges with the Navy is kicking off another effort. It's called the Interactive Synthetic Environment that's being developed with a AAA company. And the whole point is to provide this immersive and rapid prototyping environment to test out these future concepts and tactics. And so part of that exploratory work is understanding the manned-unmanned machine aspect, right? You'll hear a lot of experts in the field talk about AI trust or trusting the machine. And you can't really model trust if you don't have an understanding of how humans trust. Therein lies the problem or the challenge to place the human at the center of this effort. I won't leave Army out of it. Army Game Studio has a similar capability called experimental synthetic prototype. And again, I point all these examples out to show that this is not something which is only being worked on in a corner somewhere within the government. This is a real problem, a real challenge with many stakeholders who are actually devoting effort and expertise to solving it. Next slide, please. So Rand's portion to this is to provide a launch point. We did a series of work, and we continue to do a series of work called the Will to Fight, which is an empirical model of conflict human behavior representation that Lieutenant Colonel Hodges, after surveying what was out there, said this is a great starting point. The model is to the left. It's in one of our publications that you can download and read. There's also some shorter versions. But the key point from this model is that you'll see there's multiple layers to it. You have the individual. Then when you spiral out, you have the unit. When you spiral out again, you have the organization, either the DHS or the Army or whoever. Then you have the state represented. How does the government support the individual's will to fight? And then you have the society. What are the cultural aspects? And if you're talking about a holistic analysis of the human, you can't ignore these. I mean, all these are anecdotally familiar to us, and we understand how they play in, but yet we ignore it all the time. Again, the physical nature of humans is not to be ignored. It is a critical piece of making our people safer, making them more ready, and making them more effective. So inside the model, it takes that into account. It also takes into psychology. Army has the Big Five psychological model that is accepted by portions of the psychological community. And like I said, there's a bunch of different traits in there. So we started in 2016, multi-layered, multi-aspect. Where we're going to it is we did some experimentation on a tabletop, trying to get feedback from subject matter experts, AKA soldiers. Then we started putting into simulation to show that, hey, you can actually do human behavior modeling in simulation. It's not as intractable as you think, and it's not as science fiction as you think. We went and are making something for OneStaff, which is proving to be useful and a needed improvement to OneStaff. And then even going to things like the Unreal Engine for this sort of rapid prototyping idea. How can we make it easier for scientists to experiment and explore the human dimension without needing to pay the technical burden of these very in-depth simulation suites? I think a very important thing to know is that you have to use an incremental modeling approach. You know, you can't eat the elephant in one bite. These little bites will introduce, an aspect of, say, hesitation in battle, and maybe an aspect of freezing in battle, and then maybe an aspect of fleeing in battle. And all these things are part of our first implementations of Will to Fight. But beyond that, there's so much more. You know, what is the intergroup trust? How does the group come to a decision together? How does a leader's will affect the will of subordinates within that command? How does their perception and portrayal of the people that they're working around, the population, how does that play into it? So we think that there's an incredibly large universe that is worthwhile to analyze, but having a very key way to step through it is important. Again, the U.S. is not alone in this. If you go and read NATO's technical committees, they have put out several good reports that talk about different important aspects of human behavior and why that's important. And that rounds out the presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Greg Dietrich for any closing remarks. Again, happy to answer any questions and very pleased to be invited to this. Over.
Morning. Yeah, this is Greg Dietrich. So just a few words on, kind of our position within the AMSO group as well as in the community. So we are one of the newest center, well, the only newest center within the CCDC. Mr. Tamilio went over the organizational layout of CCDC, and the Data and Analysis Center, we kind of were formed from the former AMSA, the former Army Research Lab Survivability Lethality Analysis Directorate, as well as the Human Systems Integration elements from the Human Research and Engineering Directorate in ARL. So we kind of brought together quite a capability of modeling and simulation, as well as experimentation and human systems integration into this new group called Data and Analysis Center. And it really positioned us to kind of take a central role in this because we have that modeling and simulation capability, both at the individual soldier level as well as the large force-on force modeling, and then the human systems integration. So we're really bringing to bear those elements in development of that staff model that Henry mentioned. Unfortunately, the lead developer and architect, he mentioned Ron Bowers. Ron's on leave this week, so he was unable to attend. But really building that framework and looking at how we can bring together the physical, the cognitive, the emotional, mental, and cultural effects on the human, and then looking in that trade space. Our focus in DAC really tends to be on the equipment side, but it all kind of comes together, and that staff is really a framework, recognizing that we don't have all of the capabilities necessary. We can build that framework, and we can basically bring together all those different effects into that framework and see how they work together. So, we talked an awful lot about body armor, and that is a big concern of ours. With body armor, I can build you a set of body armor, whether male or female, that can protect you from everything. You can't move, and you're just a sitting duck there. But if we back that off and we look at the different capabilities and the different mixtures of armor, and then earlier PEO soldier mentioned the shooter's cut of the armor, and how those different cuts affect my mobility, they affect my endurance because of the weight, the layout, all of those things coming together. And how do we look at Army equipment and it affects soldier performance? So all of that comes together in that staff capability, looking both at male and female body armor, but then also, what we're working with AMSO and how that affects human behavior and human performance on the battlefield. It all has to work together, and we need to understand how each one of those affects the other. So that's really kind of where we're coming from in DAC. That's why, my director, Mr. Jim Amato, has placed such a high priority on this, and basically said, yes, DAC wants to be the center of this and lead this effort. So, any questions that we have on staff or what we're doing with human behavior, be happy to try and field those today. Any of the more technical questions, I can get those to Ron and get responses if anybody has those questions. So without any further ado, over.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much, Greg and Henry. Great presentation. For the sake of time, we're going to press, and if there's been questions submitted, I will send those technical questions over to you. But you really covered the information well, and appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem.
Now we'll introduce the CEO of Titus Human Performance, Adam Farrow. Adam's got an interesting take on if you're going to use digital twins and virtual humans, how do you make them as accurately represent the real person in real time as possible. So Adam, over to you.
That's great. Solid comms, Travis?
Very good.
Okay, great. And Ben, are you pulling up my slides or do I need to? There we go. That's fine. So what I want to just take a few minutes of and talk about is, number one, great panel, very relevant topics, very relevant capabilities. And from the beginning, when President Harold was mentioning smashing silos together, that's exactly what we have in mind when we're thinking about an enterprise capability. And especially as it pertains to health and human performance data. Those two combined, I think, is very unique. And the architecture and capabilities in the .mil infrastructure has been a real challenge. And that's what we've spent the last 10 years really focusing on. And, you know, in a former life, I was a professional baseball player. And, you know, when we start putting all kind of data together, you really get a full picture of what's going on, and taking that kind of that concept years ago and bringing it into the military with commercial application, interfacing with military-born solutions is a very difficult challenge. And so that's the architecture that we've created. And in following up on Senator Ernst as well in the collaboration with DHA, we've done that with our data architecture. We're able to press data, this health and human performance data, into the electronic health record so that it can follow the service member throughout their lifetime. And, you know, just kind of listening to the DAC and MOVES and RAND Corporation and NATIC, there's these awesome capabilities that need to be able to interface throughout different points of inflection. And if you'll spin to the next slide there, Ben, I just wanted to talk about really kind of what data management is. And this is where I think it's really misunderstood a lot of times, is we need to be able to manage data from integration and ingestion and analysis to how we distribute the data in a secure .mil environment. Very difficult to do, although we've had a lot of strides over the last several years with cloud services. We're hosted on the Impact Level 5 cloud with AAG and are now transitioning into the Azure Impact Level 5 cloud so that these protected data points can be constantly influencing the digital twin, Santos, Sophia, those models that Kareem was mentioning earlier, and Travis, that we've been working on with University of Iowa. And as you can see, pulling in, just like was mentioned a while ago, pulling in these disparate data domains all into one spot in a secure .mil environment, taking advantage of best-in-class commercial solutions and not having to kind of have a one-off research instance that doesn't kind of push back into the operational stack. That has been the challenge that we've overcome. And so we're deploying that now. And for it to be scalable, for it to be personalized and responsive, I think it's a very new capability within the Department of Defense. So how someone distributes data to three stakeholders is really what we're focused on. So you think about the service member having ownership in their own data, seeing that data through their mobile, a secure mobile interface. Number two, the practitioner or provider being able to have a better, richer relationship on best practices, interventions, and then leadership seeing that same belly button data all in one spot and interacting with each other can produce really exponential insights. So we see that having that capability with the digital twin, constantly updating that as it changes in real life, the digital twins manifesting those changes. For instance, if there's an injury, or let's say there's a new capability on the range, that digital twin can be updated, and then on with the externalities of equipment, et cetera. How does that impact the human? How does that impact the avatar? And so those are things that are really, really interesting to us. So a couple other things I wanted to bring up too is, you know, when you have an enterprise capability, you really have to look at data governance as well. And there's liberty there and freedom for customization and configuration, but there has to be unity in what is human performance optimization, what are those standards? And so we've been doing that within primarily the Special Forces community, and we're doing a lot of work with Navy Special Warfare now, integrating with another Impact Level 5 system, their student management system, so we can go kind of boot to frog, all the way from them coming in and going to the Great Lakes where they're getting trained up and kind of their first experience in Navy Special Warfare, all the way through the operational inventory, applying artificial intelligence to those operational data sets and looking at all kind of external factors, internal factors, spiritual, cognitive, injuries, strength and conditioning, nutrition, etc., in one spot, and then overlaying that with the digital twin and some of the artificial intelligence solutions that are embedded are going to push this into the future. And we feel like, you know, really the future of these human factors solutions are going to be dependent upon an architecture that can support that, and bringing a kind of a lasso around these capabilities. So, you know, just to kind of finish up, we're continuing to integrate with and to talk through. And Ben, if you'll push one more slide down there. There are tertiary ramifications for funding, for human capital management, but it has to start with the service member. They have to know why they're giving this data. What am I getting back? The provider also has to be able to interact with the data and look at, man, you know, we've always treated this knee injury this way. Well, they're doing it better on the East Coast per our shared data experience. So we're gonna kind of push into the future and have a better experience for the service member. And then leadership can look and say, man, you know, are we ready? Not only are we ready and looking at readiness levels, but are we prepared? So preparedness levels and readiness levels start to be two separate instances that are combining themselves. So, for instance, you can prepare perfect and not be ready because there was an incident that happened last night, or someone had a fight with their spouse, or, you know, now they're distracted, or you didn't get proper sleep on Monday. You can be ready on Tuesday, but the downstream effects of that lack of sleep are now, you know, impacting readiness levels on Thursday. Those are the kinds of insights that we're looking at and that we're proofing out in this capability and this data management system that's an enterprise level architecture within the .mil secure space. And then last slide there, Ben. This is kind of a picture of the architecture for those that are more technical. So you're bringing in commercial capabilities into a higher level, typically electronic health record, some medical data into the Impact Level 4, and pulling that all the way through to the Impact Level 5 secure space that now it can interact with other legacy systems, traditional systems within the DoD. And that data can reside for the service member's lifetime. And then we have other capabilities that can push up to even higher security classifications. So that is why we feel like it's extremely relevant for the digital twin and today's discussion, not having really any technical or technological limitations for how the data is ingested, integrated, analyzed, and then distributed. So we're extremely excited, and I just wanted to kind of finish up there and see if there's any questions out there. Thank you, Travis.
Thanks, Adam. Yeah, one quick question was essentially how quickly can a change in the real soldier be translated or converted into the digital twin?
I think it's a matter of just the integration. So the architecture is there to do that. You know, kind of the work we have going on with you guys at Iowa, we'll start to see a quicker and quicker response on it. The provider, the soldier, the passive data ingestion, and those capabilities is the next kind of frontier. So now it kind of gets clunky because, you know, folks aren't used to having an architecture that supports that real-time passive data level insight. And so those are some of the main efforts we have going on, especially within the Navy, within the Air Force now. So that, to me, that's the next wave of kind of insight is having that as close to real time as possible.
Gotcha. Outstanding. Thank you very much, Adam, for your time, and we appreciate it. And we'll transition now to introduce the founder, CEO of Hardwire, George Tunis, with George's presentation. So, George, if you're ready, over to you.
Yep, we're all ready to go. First, thank you guys for having me. Hopefully, we can represent Hardwire as well as the body armor industry. Our beginnings with the University of Iowa happened quickly, almost by chance. We met Kareem, and honestly, for everybody that's on this call, doing something with the University of Iowa is going to be game-changing for you. I can tell you it was for us. It was an honor to see Kareem actually steal one of my slides, but that's exactly how we work. With the University of Iowa, it was a collaboration. We were back and forth. It was real time. And this idea of reality meeting virtual reality. We're kind of the reality guys. We are the supplier to SOCOM for their lightweight Spear program for their soft body armor. And we're the supplier to PC Gen 3 to the Marine Corps, primarily because we're the lightest. We're now at 0.67 pounds per square foot and body armor that's almost half the thickness it used to be at 0.2 inches. So it's thin and it's getting thinner. And as we started to work with the University of Iowa, we wanted to understand how can we take the weight off and how does our armor interact with the soldiers. I'll talk just a second about our history. When we first started, we were DARPA funded to go get the weight off of trucks as EFPs became, you know, the threat in Iraq. And when we started, I think the MEEP kit was 168 pounds per square foot. And we now make the EFP kits for the JLTV, and they're right around 68 pounds per square foot. So we have a history of taking weight off by using the best in material science and by understanding what the mission is. You know, we want to fit the mission, and we want to take the load off at the same time. Next slide. Kareem actually used this earlier, and it's a female soldier wearing some of our body armor, and we were trying to understand what the load was, not just on the soldier, but what the load was from the soldier on the body armor. As we've gotten so thin, we wanted to understand what were the deflections that we saw. And there's no question that this level of motion capture, and we coupled it with a second technique that was really interesting that we took from the movie industry. It was actually stretch sensors that were taken from, I think the first time they were used was in the Hobbit movies, to basically mimic these fine motions that occur, you know, at the skin level. And they were for actors to, you know, to portray this into the video, but they turned out to be great ways to capture and get duplicate data from motion capture now transferred to, I'll just call them high stretch strain gauges that can either be on the armor or on the human being. And what we found really quickly was we got a great understanding of, you know, before, and I heard this from an old attorney talking to a young associate. He said, you know, I don't pay you to think, I pay you to know. He was pretty gruff old attorney guy, but we tried to take that to heart. And we don't want to know just that it's more comfortable. We want to know why it's more comfortable. And we want to be sure that we have the data to go along with that human emotional understanding. So understanding the human motion and then the armor motion relative to the body, along with the amount of coverage. How does that armor move as a human being goes through a whole range of motions, especially the range of motions they're going to see in combat, that could be, as Senator Ernst said, just sitting in a truck. That's a big thing. And where does it rest on your legs? How does it pinch? How does it move with you? In doing all that, we're going to be able to lighten the load, and bringing this kind of full circle back to the female body shape. We want to make sure that we're able to apply that to the female body shape. Many times the armor industry, and I'm one company in that industry, we're reacting to requirements, and those requirements are getting appreciably better. The SPEAR program, is straightforward. It is adaptable to male and female. The Army program that's out right now, the MSV, they've done a really brilliant job of boiling down all these human shapes and sizes into 15 different shapes and sizes. And then the Marine Corps did basically the same thing. And we're finding that back and forth between the customers and their customers, the warfighters, as well as this virtual modeling, is helping us all understand and adapt quicker. Next slide, please. I threw this mold up because it literally got made 2 days ago. It was right when we were turning our slides in. So I was like, let's throw that up. This is actually a mold for a piece of titanium armor we're making that's only going to be 0.34 inches thick. It's very low visibility armor for some SOCOM customers. But what's interesting about it is not going to be perfect. This particular one is just going to get us going, and it fits a pretty jacked up individual. We did that specifically because we wanted to look at the range of curvature, how we could form titanium into that shape. And it gave rise to almost a secondary artifact of this whole effort, which was we're able to take that now and make molds and make surrogate armor that may not be B4C or hot pressed silicon carbide. It just may be ultra high hard steel or titanium, but it's weight equivalent, thickness equivalent, and it can be tried. And the important thing about trying is if we focus our attention on the female warfighter, if we fund it, it doesn't have to be a lot of money. We use M&S to look at the motion analysis and the fit, form, and function. And then we get out there and we iterate. And we're very good at that at Hardwire, where we can, in a matter of a day or two, come up with a weight equivalent and try it on, and then try it on again and try it on a variety of people, because it's really about trying to boil humanity, male and female, but in today's focus, female, into maybe 15 shapes and sizes. Because eventually, if it's soft armor, we can mold it. A lot of our soft armor is new. It doesn't have any stitching in it. It's not fabric. It's a lot more like leather. It breaks in like a baseball glove. It's a different way of accomplishing the task at a much lighter weight. But in the hard armor world, the tooling for hot pressed silicon carbide or B4C becomes very expensive. And the material science, the SAPI plate is pretty evolved. And the way that the stress wave from a ballistic impact goes through that plate, its shape, its geometry, the wave speed, the way cracks propagate, all that's pretty well understood. As we get into these more complex shapes, especially fitting females, we're going to need to understand that simultaneously and make some trade-offs. And I think that's what, between the University of Iowa, companies like ours, companies like Coors Tech, that do some of the more advanced ceramics, as well as what we can do to mold Dyneema, just as you've seen helmets evolve, we can very quickly evolve into female shapes that are highly effective and also very comfortable. With that, we can open it up to any questions.
George, thank you so much for your time and your participation. Really, really appreciate that. That is a fantastic picture and concept moving forward. We're going to be very interested in watching that. One quick question came up. Have there been outside the U.S. interest in some of your products? If not, is there any limitation, or could some of the international participants reach out to you?
No, the international participants can absolutely reach out. We've fielded, basically the same armor is fielded through the NIJ. We're the lightest on the CPL list, and it's fielded throughout the United States. We have international customers already, but the military's always been our main focus, and being the supplier to SOCOM and to the Marine Corps at this point, hopefully to the Army as that solicitation matures. It's a joy, and the more people we can bring home in one piece, the happier we are.
Exactly. All right. Outstanding. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, George, just a quick thank you so much. This is Kareem. I appreciate the time and effort it takes to join, and very much appreciate the kind words. Thank you.
Well, I can tell you the most important thing I said was working with the University of Iowa has been one of the engineering joys of my life.
Thank you so much.
All right, over to you guys.
Thank you, George. I want to now introduce Brigadier General Pete Palmer, retired, and the role that Pete plays volunteering and supporting multiple organizations, Vice President of the National Defense Industrial Association, Human Systems, and a fascinating topic that is so appropriate for today. So, Pete, over to you.
Thank you very much. And also, Dr. Malik, thanks for inviting us to have this discussion. Everybody's been talking about the exciting science and stuff that goes on with all of this. And unfortunately, I did that while I was in the Army and then later on working with industry. So I definitely appreciate working with industry, working with universities, and pulling those technologies there together. So what I wanted to start out with is somebody has to talk the bureaucracy that goes on, because unfortunately, all the efforts you do don't happen unless they work it through the Pentagon and then get to the senator's office to then approve. So there's a concept. I'm the vice chair for the National Defense Industry Association. We work for the Human Systems Division, which you've already talked about, human factors and human engineering efforts, and we're working that way. A new concept that we've actually been working for several years. Could I get the next slide? Okay, I think everybody's understands that the technology readiness levels, when you go into the building and set into a building being the Pentagon, for those that don't know that phrase, and you're trying to get a program approved and sitting on a board or whatever, they're normally, you need a language to speak to them. And they often want to know, especially with science and technology pieces, where are you technology? Where are we at this point? And essentially, defense uses what was originally developed by NASA, the term technology readiness level scales, which are familiar here. I'm not going to go through those, but essentially, I think everybody's familiar with TRLs. Next slide. What we want to develop is human readiness level status or scales to be able to help us so that when we go into the building, well, first of all, when we develop technologies, often the human isn't part of that developmental piece. They're looking at, as we call them, the bright, shiny objects. They're looking at some kind of technology, and when we're sitting on the industry side, they ask us to build, a black box that's this by this size. But often the human is not part of the evaluation criteria or being able to work with the end users. So as a consequence, lots of programs either don't go to fruition, or when they are finally fielded, they are forced to go back and be re-engineered for the human, or the whole program that might have taken literally decades to build. And a lot of the soldier systems, because I was involved with the soldier system, takes decades to get there. Then the program gets canceled and you get pushed back in the bureaucracy and have to start it all over. So there's a great need for having your TRLs match what we're saying the HRLs, or the HRLs match the TRLs. Next slide. This is the current proposal, and we're working with Dr. Micah Ensley. She is the former chief scientist for the Air Force who has been driving this initiative. And this just gives you a feel of how we want to, scale the development from the human side for technology. Next slide. And this just gives you some of the benefits you can. The real key is when we're in the building trying to argue for a program, or industries trying to argue why their program's the best. Again, they often use the TRL level. This is where we are, and this is where we'll be when we field. Now we would like to see is what's the HR level, because does the HR level match the TR level? Because if it doesn't, then why field the program? Because we're going to either lose it or it doesn't work well and we have to go re-engineer it. So getting it on early in the process is critical to this. And really the need is so when we go into the senator's office, we can say, yes, the new body armor we're fitting is going to work with all the people that have to use that, because the HRL level matches the TRL level. And that's pretty much it. I'm just wanted to bring this subject up because we do need to have a language to talk to decision makers. And the HRL level, for those that aren't aware of it, happy to include you in the discussions. But as we look forward as industry or universities, being able to talk in this kind of language is very helpful to decision makers who basically won't be read into all the details that you are. So I'll open it up to questions.
So General Palmer, one question had to do with others that are involved in this HRL development, some of the other academic researchers, organizations. I know you're representing NDIA, but there's a number of people behind the scenes working it.
Yeah, there's a whole working group for this area, and NDIA is one of the many participants in it. And again, Mike Ensley, Dr. Ensley is the one that is driving this effort, and she's got a collaborative team. Actually, I'm stealing from one of the contractors for the briefing. They said I could use their slides, but we also got Old Dominion University that's participating in this well. And to be honest, Travis, getting University of Iowa's thoughts on this would be helpful to the whole process as well.
Right, exactly. Yeah, this is of significant interest, I know, to our researchers here. Okay, well, I appreciate your presentation. Sure. And any final remarks or questions? I will thank you, and I'll transition over to the University of Central Florida. There's been a lot of talk about Orlando, and obviously Dr. David Metcalf and the group there has been very involved in lots of this work. So Dave, over to you.
Thanks so much, Travis, and thanks for having me here today, too. It's great to talk about some of the partnerships that are already in works and the work that's being done between Iowa and Florida and our labs and spaces in particular. And I wanted to give you kind of a speed tour today of some of the different things that we're working on, some of the ideas that might be useful in partnership to some of the other efforts that are underway right now, too. So I am at the Institute for Simulation and Training. Go to the next slide. For those of you not as familiar with the University of Central Florida, hopefully you see a few of the stats that might ring true for some of the areas that you're involved in, too. And the Institute for Simulation and Training has been around for quite some time, has a pretty large swash of the simulation space, and has really been trying to not only lead, but also behind the scenes partner with some of the great efforts that are going on throughout our military, throughout government, throughout industry, and academia, too. Let's go to the next slide. We're part of the ecosystem that was mentioned several times earlier today, too, by both CCDC as well as the Canzaro, the SDE efforts, and looking at STE. And as part of this whole ecosystem of the Central Florida Research Park, $5 billion flows through it in all the branches of service and other parts of the government, too. And it's just south of our main campus with 69,000 plus students to choose from. We give a lot of opportunities to merge academia, industry, and government and military together, too. Also in our health sciences campus. Next slide. That's represented in our small lab, the Mixed Emerging Technology Integration Lab, or METL for short. that works in a number of these areas too. And if we go to the next slide, you'll see some of those different industry sectors that we're involved in too, which does span further than the military, but really has a lot of dual use and has a lot of public-private public-private partnership as well too, which are really key to how we, as a public nonprofit university, try and benefit society and our military and government in particular too, like we're talking about primarily today too. And you see examples on this screen of some of the different types of work that we've done, including some of the mobile apps that include human-in-the-loop training and simulation too, which are all very important parts of our overall ecosystem. Next slide. This shows some of the other types of advanced modeling and simulation that have tied into our healthcare areas, which is some of the main areas that we've had good use and leverage of avatars, and looking at how we can tie those into overall scenarios for certified nurse aides, as well as within our own med school curriculum. One of our doctors put a lot of the different examples of a whole virtual family with a number of different types of individuals in that set up into the whole curriculum too, and tying that into those. The next slide here that we have actually shows some of those models being created. Custom is the first time that the axillary breast examination had been accurately modeled too and put into open source for use in Meded Portal by the Drs. Sandan for use by not only our students, but also by a number of others across the country. Next slide. And this shows how some of that creation is done too in an automated fashion too. You can see that was real time to go and create from a example of the skeletal system, the muscular system, from an MRI or CAT scan in less than 10 seconds. We also have the ability to do that on the exterior of the body, of course, with photogrammetry and some of the techniques that others have shown too. But having that inside and outside of the body has been really important to physiology and study in conjunction with our College of Medicine. Our partners at the VA, the Orlando VA, the next slide, have asked us to go and do what they need, which is to give them X-ray vision in essence too, through the use of augmented and virtual reality, to be able to go and see the anatomy, see the CAT scans overlaid on top of, in this case, mannequins, but also on top of their actual patients too. And that's the future we're pointing to. There's been a lot of talk about personal protective equipment. And of course, over on the right-hand side of the screen, you see some of the other types of personal protective equipment, which is so important right now with the fight against COVID-19. And we have been working with the VA to take what we've done for Ebola and other crises and make sure that that meets all CDC requirements for personal protective equipment for health and for biosecurity too, which are also very important parts of the whole CBRNE ecosystem, which some of my colleagues who work in our brother and sister labs too, like the Scimitar lab, have been very, very active in with DITRA, with the Army and others as well too. So I think those are very important things to consider. And the VA is a partner in that, as well as the other branches of service. Next slide. Sometimes we also think about the embodiment of human characteristics and things like a social companion robot for the Cancer Center at Orlando Health too. And this shows some examples of how those different prototypes, both in an AR setting, augmented reality setting, as well as in a live setting, interact with humans and how those components connect to each other too. So when we think about that embodiment too, sometimes our studies include that as well. Next slide.
Recording.
So this shows another area that we have, the UCF construct, similar to some of the work that we've done in AR and VR other places too. We have an all-white garage inside of our Lake Nona Medical City, which allows us to do anatomy studies, allows us to almost have like what was in the movie The Matrix, create any reality you want in a mixed reality setting from this all-white environment too, and be able to switch those environments out very, very quickly and at other types of environments too. So the human in the loop studies we do benefit from this type of core test bed capability. Next slide. One of the projects we did that made use of this space was actually for Boeing too, on the commercial side, to look at how they could left seat and right seat pilot and co-pilot avatars that were instantiated inside of, in this case, the Microsoft HoloLens. Back one, please. And inside of that Microsoft HoloLens, you could actually see the photogrammetry and the capture of a real pilot from one of our friends who is always in those seats, and to embody that interaction, team-based learning between those different groups. The best thing about this technology was that you could go and change out for a different ethnicity, different gender, different cultures too, to be able to have those cultural interactions too in a team-based setting too. So a lot of lessons learned that we take from the commercial side that are being instantiated into the military side too, with some heavy military interest in this type of technology as a baseline test bed for future studies too. And you'll see that in some of the other programs of record that we've been supporting. Next. Another important characteristic and aspect that we can't forget is cybersecurity, and not only for the physical systems, but also for the human-in-the-loop studies, like the example on the next screen, too, which shows an example of, in healthcare, all of the different potential risks, and where the human-in-the-loop, the social engineering component of this, could be very compelling, and also something that is going to be potentially disruptive to the overall operations when you look at people, process, and technology. So that human-in-the-loop simulation, even when studying things that are oftentimes network-centric or computationally centric too, when we think about cybersecurity, the human is often the weakest link. So our latest blockchain and quantum defense simulators try and take that into account and not forget about those components, in addition to, of course, network and data at rest, data in motion, those types of areas too, and those emerging technologies too. Next. Some of the areas of innovation are not driven by our faculty. Some of them are driven by the social entrepreneurship and the social good that our students, and some of those interdisciplinary projects too come into our laboratory, but many of them are spread throughout the university. One that's gotten critical acclaim on the next screen is something that even Robert Downey Jr. and the teams from Avengers got involved in too, to start creating 3D printed, customized to the actual body type of, in this case, children, for synthetic and prosthetic limbs too. So when you think about those prosthetic limbs and the amount of parts, instead of a $40,000 spend, you have a $350 spend, an open source nonprofit initiative that can scale just one part of the arm at a time too, if the child is growing too. So you have to buy a new prosthetic every time the child grows a couple of inches too, and the prosthetic may no longer fit. They've also been sized to both male and female body types too. And this is all innovation that was driven from our students. In our laboratory and in our 3D laboratory, our PD 3D lab in super simulation training, we also even have things like a biobot too, which allows us to print with organic materials too, either for the simulation of cadaver tissue or the simulation of live tissue. We have to ask ourselves, what does this give us in terms of prototyping and advanced prototyping too, to be able to look at some of these research problems and have actual, as close to reality solutions as possible too, when we start to integrate in what it might mean to have those type of simulations as well, to the live simulations that come from 3D printing and the ability to do that. So hopefully that expands a little bit of our view of what might be possible, or already is possible. It might be possible to provide at scale over the course of time. We're very excited about partnering with a number of universities in this area too. Next slide. So how do we make sense of all of this? Some of the programs we have, like the Hacking for Defense program from the military, back one slide, the Hacking for Defense program and the I-Corps program, the Innovation Corps from the National Science Foundation, serve as that bridge between some of our teaching mission and our partnership with government, military, and industry. We've partnered with a number of universities across the country to try and bring this type of innovation management to the forefront, whether we're talking about virtual humans or another technology too. Next slide. And we've always prided ourselves on being America's partnership university. It's in one of our 5 strategic mission statements for the university. And as a public nonprofit university, we look at how we can serve with other nonprofit universities, how we can engage in compelling projects like the one that you're on right now too with virtual humans, and how we look at that for different anatomy and body types, and also international partnerships that meet these broad goals too. Our laboratory is also very interested in spinning off this technology. Orlando was awarded one of the Naval X tech bridges too, and we participate in those and are kind of the behind the scene partners on a number of different initiatives too, within the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines too, that are all represented in our Central Florida Research Park and the Team Orlando programs too. Next slide. So if anybody would like to talk more about some of the partnership opportunities or how we can, again, kind of behind the scenes help with that technology prototyping or the use of some of our core capabilities, we'd be happy to do that too. Here's my contact information. And I've been so appreciative of everyone that you've assembled today and what I've gotten to hear from them too. So thank you very much, Travis and team, for assembling such a nice event today.
Thank you very much, David. That was fascinating. Yeah, we appreciate the information and that collaboration. Yeah, we witnessed that firsthand. So appreciate that. And for the sake of time, we're going to continue moving forward. I see next on the schedule, I have conflict kinetics. And I will now introduce and turn it over to Dr. Dinesh Pai, University of British Columbia, and some fascinating research and work on virtual fit testing, especially for female body armor using these soft avatars. So Dinesh, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me? Great.
Yes.
So first of all, I'd like to thank the Iowa team for the invitation and also for Senator Ernst for sharing her experience with us. I'm a professor at the University of British Columbia, and these issues of modeling the human body, particularly soft tissues and contact, is something we've been looking at for over about 2 decades. And Vital Mechanics is a spin-off from my lab that is turning the basic research in the lab into useful solutions. And one topic we've been looking at over the last year, very coincidentally, is exactly the topic of this meeting, which is how to improve body armor for females. The Canadian government has committed to having about more than 25% of its armed forces be female by 2026. So in Canada, we are working very hard to make that a reality. And in particular, we've been working with the DRDC over the last year to help with this effort. Next slide, please. So it's great to have all these concepts of different body armors, but the question is, how do you test that these things fit someone? And so, given a particular body armor design, how do you evaluate the fit? How do you issue the right fit to the right person? So these are the kind of questions that we are interested in. Next, please. So, and what do you need to make that kind of fit prediction, which is our focus, is that the simulations have to have soft avatars because real human bodies are soft. You need dynamics. And most importantly, you need this to be based on real data from humans and must be validated. Next, please. So based on our basic research at the university, we developed a software system called Vital Fit. And with Vital Fit, the key point is that we simulate both the body tissues and the garment using finite element models, and we can incorporate incorporate measured parameters. So we've been working a lot actually with the athletic apparel industry to help design sports bras, for example. And sports bras actually have a lot in common with female body armor. They're both technical garments. They have certain functional requirements, but they also must be comfortable. And these two things are often something that one needs to trade off. And both are used in very dynamic scenarios. So we had quite a bit of experience in this field, and I'm showing one example of the type of validation that we can do. So on the left, you see a body scan without a bra, but if you just take the geometry, which you call a hard avatar, and simulate the garment on it, you get a very poor prediction of what the actual body shape is like. You get a poor prediction of the stresses in the garment and the pressures on the body. On the right, in the third from the left, you see a soft tissue simulation, and you can see that the pressure distribution and other metrics are very different. The shape is different and matches the real person wearing the bra on the right. Another point is that we have designed this to be scalable from the ground up. So we can run a large number of fit simulations, even for a particular size, say a 34B. You may have one person who is 6 feet tall and another person who is 5 feet tall, and they have very different body shapes. So we recognize that we need to simulate all these large number of simulations in parallel. Next slide, please. So one thing we care a lot about to make this realistic is material properties. And when we started, we thought, the human body, there's a ton of medical research. Someone must have measured soft tissue properties of the human body. And to a certain extent, that is true. There's been a lot of, for example, medical research on breast cancer that has a lot of tissue property data, but it's not suitable for simulating what happens when there's contact between an external object and the soft tissues, causing compression. Next, please. So we started a project. There's a short summary video from the university showing some of the work we're doing to actually measure real human bodies and to characterize the dynamics and the soft tissue compression behavior. And one of the big targets for us has been in fit of clothing. So I'll just let this video play out. So we have this specific, this new probe that I'll say a little bit more about, with which we can measure soft tissue distribution over the body. And then we can use this in a finite element simulation. Next slide, please. Next, please. So we designed, because there was no simple way to measure these soft tissues, we designed our own handheld probe, which has a 6-axis force sensor in it, and which we track the human body to do motion correction. And then we can measure in the lab the distribution of soft tissue properties very quickly on the body. Next slide, please. So using this technique, we've built a detailed model. We've measured actually more than we measured more than about 100 males and females, different age groups. So we were ready, I think, when we were in discussions with the DRDC about doing a pilot study to see how we could use these soft avatars for human female body armor evaluation. So so Canada, as you may know, like the U.S., has also a large database of the Canadian personnel. They've had 3D scans called the 2012 CFAS survey led by Alan Keefe. So we built vital body soft avatars for average male and female models, and we compared the predictions you would get from hard avatars, which are just scans, and our soft avatars with finite element simulations. Next slide, please. So one thing we found is that we get a much better, just hold on there. So we get a much better prediction of shape, pressure, and air gap. And the reason is actually what I think Senator Ernst already noted in the beginning. Ballistic plates are particularly important because they compress soft tissues quite a bit. And this image shows that even for a male, and you can do this experiment at home easily, you can push a piece of glass and you see that there is significant soft tissue deformation. And that affects everything, including the pressure distribution. It influences the air gap. And so to capture that, next, we create a finite element model of the male and female avatar, next, and we can produce predictions like this. This is just one example, which shows that we can capture this soft tissue deformation, the air gap is much more realistic. And the air gap, by the way, also affects things like lethality and fatality type of estimations. So to summarize, this is actually my last slide. So our preliminary study showed that soft avatars are really essential for predicting the fit of body armor and is particularly important for females. And our simulation showed that there is a poorer fit prediction for females than as compared to males. And we can use this technology now. It's really ready to solve real problems. So we can use these types of soft avatar fit simulations to, for example, design better armor. We can use it to evaluate whether a particular design is working as you wished. And also, eventually, you can make sure that you issue the right size armor for a particular individual based on body scans, because body scans are now becoming almost commodities, and you can then get the right sizing. So I'm excited by all the things that we can do to make this kind of personal protective equipment to be more inclusive and to encourage more females in the professions that need such equipment. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dinesh. That was fascinating. I know there's been some interest. Have you worked with organizations, either companies or governments outside of Canada also?
So we have worked with a lot of companies outside of Canada and the U.S. and in Europe. We have only worked with the Canadian government so far.
Okay. Well, fascinating presentation. I'm so glad that we connected and we're able to have you join us in the summit. We look forward to future collaboration. That was fascinating. I know our researchers have already been interested in the work and some of the tools that you're using. We've never seen those before, so thank you for that.
Great. Thank you very much. Looking forward to collaborating.
Okay. Thank you, sir. And I will transition over to Carol McDonald. Carol has another fascinating presentation representing the IEEE Standards Association, their 3D Body Processing Industry Connections Group. So, Carol, I will transition it over to you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Okay, my name is Carol McDonald. My company is Nice Concept. It's a startup dealing with mass customization of apparel and footwear. And I'm representing the IEEE 3D Body Processing Group tonight. So if you want to switch it. The 3D Body Processing Group ranges through a lot of startups to major brands, scanning companies, retail brands, data processing, research laboratories, including Dinesh, by the way. And so we'll actually be skipping his slide on the very last, or the second to the last. And so our focus is the kind of the 3D from scanning through processing, storage, sharing, and then augmented representation. So next slide. So when we look at it, 3D integration, and I changed this over to PPE. We also presented this at the Human Factors conference as well. But basically, you're going to have the product development side, the fit side, soldiers facing, whether you guys actually want to develop a scanning like we can start doing in retail, where the soldier takes a body scan and then you select the size for the soldier to pick. Other issues are made to measure, which is what MTM stands for production, such that can you adjust garments such that you can do adjustments and make garments to fit the soldier and to make it more custom, and how could you actually bring in mass customization for armor instead of just saying, hey, here's 5 sizes and good luck. So that's what we see. So the simulation, the capabilities range from 3D design and modeling, body models and fusion, and then capability and fit simulation. One of the examples is Browseware. We also have from Stavanka Tech as well to show how these can work through the whole workflow. Next slide. So for the 3D, for the analyzing and recommendation and visualization, you're going from a 3D design, you have 2D patterns, and how does those actually change when you go from 3D back to 2D? You can also do the VR, AR, and I've noticed we have online shopping. Perhaps you can bring that to the military as well. They can go online, purchase the uniforms, or however all that works. And then clearly colorways and styles are kind of set, but also you can do it for any new designs, for any design review or validation that you want to do. Next slide. So the capture and digitization, what we're also reviewing, we've got a standards committee in addition, which is P3141. And what we're also looking at is to review of the hardware. So you've got types of scanning, the method of scanning, whether it's a dynamic or static, and whether certain poses may be required. And then one of the things that I've noticed is everybody mentions the twin, and I'd like to clarify that a twin is not the same as a clone. So a twin, by the ISO definition, is you can bring in population databases to that avatar, whereas a clone is the person that you have just scanned. And I just want to clarify that there's a very distinct difference between a clone and a scan. So you can scan someone and they still may be very different than the twin because you're actually getting their clone data. The other thing that we're looking at is actually the digitization of objects. So how do you actually map clothing properly in terms of drape and to get the right material properties, and then also in terms of color, which isn't as important, but it's, and then wearables and accessories, and how to properly digitize those as well to be able to be utilized on the human body scan. Next slide. So you have the human body models as well. We're looking at the quality data associated with that and metadata. So you've got, like I said, poses before, virtual humans, avatars, and then you're also going to bring in the aggregation of data. So how much is from the population? How much is that particular scan? How much are you getting the material properties of that garment or of the armor? And then also an agreement on what the landmarks really need to be and what's needed, and how do you actually indicate landmarks when you're dealing with just the avatar and not necessarily the actual being able to mark the person. So how do you do soft analysis for when you are just dealing with the virtual person? Go on. So the other thing that there's areas for confusion, especially in retail, but I'm assuming that it can also be for military as well, is how do you define the height of your waist? Which doesn't sound like much, but people have different personal preferences as to where they wear their garments. And so that may actually impact the fit as well, is what is the definition of certain body landmarks that actually deal with personal preferences. And that'll actually indicate whether they're comfortable in it or not, because where are things fit? Where do things fit? Where do they like it? Then that becomes comfortable. So you also have whether we can go to automated landmarks based off of for clothing production, and landmarks may be slightly different for just getting the body defined to actually being able to use it for clothing and garment production. Next. So fit is one of the aspects. In fact, Dinesh Pai is actually leading that subgroup as well, is to define fit. So we have to define what's actually needed, how to get the body block over into the production block and every step in between. So you have what the body is or how the body is shaped. You then move on to what garment you're dealing with. You then move on to the material that you're using, which has a huge impact into the actual production patterns that you're going to use to make the garments to fit the person. And so you also have material properties, garment properties, how you're manufacturing it as well, how much ease you intend to have, whether that's positive or negative, depending on whether it's anywhere from a bra to something that's very loose. So all of that impacts how you're actually going to define fit. And next slide. So then part of the things that I don't know for military, whether you've got it or not, but AR, VR, and like I said, not necessarily online shopping, but could the actual soldier pick which garment they think is gonna fit, and whether they can do fit visualization ahead of time. And then part of the algorithms, like I said, is actually the drapage and the physics of the materials that you're using. Next. I'm trying to keep this in time. So this was actually one from Dinesh's that we were going to use about soft tissue presentation. He's already done that, so we can move on. So one of the things I included on this is what we were working on next was, like I said, fit understanding, landmarking, foot definitions. That's very important for boots. And it's very important for shoes, period. And then publishing a paper on the comparative analysis. That's some work that we've done measuring people in both Spain and in the US, and then how we compare different scanners and manual measurements as well. And just one of the thoughts that we had, you guys seem to have been dealing with the body types, but to also look at subtle measurements. So not just, hey, maybe it's shoulder, but maybe it's the upper back measurements for arm movement if you're going to try to move around. And then, like I said, have you thought about an app? And is there manufacturing that can be set up so that different body shapes, so we can just handle it and actually get to a clone from a twin to actually be the protective gear? Next slide. So thank you very much, and thank you all. I know I'm the very last presentation, so I'm trying to go through this pretty quick. But if you're interested, you can look at the IEEE website. It's very simple, IEEE 3DBP, and you can find the link. You can sign up, and if anybody's interested in joining the group, we'd be glad to have you. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Carol. Two quick questions. One, have you participated in the Army's Human Behavior Representation Working Group that has a standards, definitions, requirements subgroup?
No, we have not. And yes, we would like the link. So if you could send that on to us, we'd be glad to
okay. Yep. We can do that. And then there was another question from James Kwong, D&D at Canada. Have you looked at mass garment development, like designing garments and scaling the solution so that you can do mass for military populations in a quick manner?
No, we have not. We'd love to look into that. Part of it is understanding what the requirements are, and then we can go from there. You know, I mean, if you're designing a dressing gown or an evening gown, for example, you're not doing a whole lot of movement. If you're designing for being in the battlefield, you have a lot of movement. So we would have to understand all the qualifications, and then we can, but please send us a link and we'll be glad to follow up.
Outstanding. Thank you so much for your presentation. That was fascinating. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Malik for closing remarks. Kareem?
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Travis. Just a huge thank you to all the presenters. Appreciate your time, effort, willingness in sharing your work with us. It has been absolutely terrific watching these presentations, the technology, the ideas, and exchange between all the presenters and everybody that has participated. Thank you all so much to everyone that has participated as well. As you can see, we've tried to have a balance of academia, industry, and government. Just in terms of numbers, there's been 300 people that have participated in one way or the other today over the past 4 hours. My feeling is that the focus on a single narrow idea to talk about and bring the experts on board is critical to get traction, to collaborate and generate new ideas. So as we prepare for next year's summit, we would welcome your ideas and thoughts on what is the next narrow focus. Please do send us your thoughts on this summit and what you believe could be our focus for next year. Thank you again, everybody. This adjourns the summit.